I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Um, Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. We read the minutes. And additions, corrections. Here, there's a motion to approve minutes. Commissioner Materi makes a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Commissioner Culver. Is there any more discussion on the minutes? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes approved. Next is the approval of the agenda. And the additions, corrections, questions.
I got a question.
Yep.
If I want to bring up the wage of a staff member or a clerk person here, does that be, I see it's under, there's a pay scale wage discussion, or do I gotta bring, get in?
I put that on the agenda and I was just to basically discuss anything, if you looked at the scale that Pam gave us and had questions or, questions, regarding a specific office or something, I think that's kind of open to just, so yeah. I would say, yeah, you could have like, kind of pay wage, increase, decrease, questions, whatever, I think it's fine, just an open discussion, so.
I got Don Larson had called, he wants to resign, and so I don't know if bring it up now or later. Don Larson's on the weed board and he wants to resign.
Okay.
He's got another, his grandson Sterling Larson would do it. So I don't know if that's something we have to talk about now or later or what. but-
Yeah, we can, kind of add that to the end of the agenda there, we'll just, talk about, or actually, could we, maybe we could talk about an old and unfinished business with Red Hauser, since we're talking about appointments or something, we can just kind of add it that. We'll just add it to the next agenda item here, because we gotta talk about the housing authority, so we'll just talk about the weed board then too. Okay.
And then the other thing would be there's a bunch of road issues that people complain about. So.
Sure, well, I think that we can probably talk about when Skylar's in here, and then Jim Wagner's coming in with Cattail Bay Road, I'd imagine that conversation's all gonna blend together, so.
Yeah, he called me about that.
Sure,
I
so
said,
I
you
think
know,
we can, I don't think we have to add that to the agenda, I think we're gonna be discussing roads quite a bit, so. So we can, just put that there, so. Okay, so we just, basically we just add weed board discussion to the housing authority for the old and unfinished business, so. I guess that's an amended agenda, so. Would entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Everly, seconded by Commissioner Materi to approve the amended agenda. Is there any more discussion on the agenda? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. All right, so now the first order of old and unfinished business will be the Housing Authority Board Member replacement for Jeff Olhauser. Anybody find a candidate? Gary, you were kind of looking into that because it was your district, right?
Yeah, I didn't really find anything yet.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any candidate or? Okay.
It has to be from town.
It doesn't have to be, it's just that was always kind of the way we were doing things with these boards, where generally the boards are made up the same size as the county commission, and each district that was always just the unwritten rule, was everybody found someone from their area, so that way you get someone from every part of the county, you don't have everybody from one town or two, but it's getting to the point where it's tough to find people to serve on some of these boards, so I wouldn't be objected to find basically any county resident, but ideally, it's nice to replace these folks that are in the same area, but it's definitely not like a rule or any kind of something that we have to follow, it's just more of a, just made a lot of sense, but.
What do they do with that housing authority?
Well, with the housing authority, I think it came out to about a quarterly meeting, 2-3 hours.
Every quarter, they would have a meeting over lunchtime. Housing authority is, in charge of like all the, low-income government housing, like all those apartments up by North Casey Hall and behind the post office and stuff.
think a lot of their meetings mostly just pertain to the bills and maintenance and stuff, like the general.
Yeah, and
They usually have like a manager that manages the properties, and then generally the board just reacts to any issues or bills or repairs and maintenance. I don't think it's a extremely labor intensive position or nothing, so. Okay, well, I guess we can, the search will continue, I guess. And if you have any appointees or find anybody, I guess,
When do you need to fill it?
well, just as soon as possible, because I think Jeff is he already
he
resigned?
wants to be done
Right,
with,
so he's still on, he'd like to find a replacement as soon as possible.
We're meeting, might not be until, because it's only for a year, so, well, depends, maybe they have their second one, I don't know.
Right, but, yeah, I'd say if everybody just looks into it, and if we can find someone from any part of the county, it's fine, so. It doesn't have to be from Linton ideally, but it is. Take anybody we can get, I guess.
You should look for a job.
Hey Kelly, you live in the
You
county?
look for a job.
Oh, she pops out right away, so. Okay.
I did that on purpose.
She lives about a mile outside of the county. Okay, well, we'll just keep continuing for that appointee. Next item, which is along a similar subject, would be the weed board then. Generally, the weed board's been a lot like the water board, the other ones, you have to try and have each commissioner have one appointee from that board, so ideally, if somebody's resigning from that spot.
Yeah, he just said he's just tired of, he had enough, he's old enough, I guess. So his grandson, Sterling, would be willing to do it, so we want to appoint him or whatever, that's fine, so.
When does Don want to resign?
I think as soon as he can.
Okay.
How long is this term?
I think he would have this year yet, I think. I don't know how long that goes,
usually till the first of the year.
first year.
All right, but are they on like 3-year terms?
Yeah, if his term is ending
His
this year.
term is ending this year, he said.
Okay.
And he said if Sterling, if he wants to do it, he'll get out right away.
He's got a kid.
Well, I guess I would just say with the nature of finding it difficult to find appointees, if he's already found one in that area. The good news about it is his appointment would only be for about 6 months, so if it doesn't work out or there's some conflict, he's got, at the end of the term, we could appoint somebody else if it doesn't work out. If it works out and it all fits good, then we found a replacement for him, which, like I said, with the water board, weed board, all these boards, it's tough to find people on serve, so.
So I can just tell him that his grandson can take the job then, or take it?
Well, I think what probably be best is, since this is kind of a sudden thing, is maybe just tell Don that would probably, it would be considered, and if he wants to resign by the next meeting, and then we can just we can appoint him at the next meeting or something, unless anybody wants to appoint him now, I guess, but.
Might as well appoint him right away, I would think.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody wants to make a motion, that's fine, I mean,
I'll make a motion to appoint him.
okay, so Commissioner Everly makes a motion to appoint Sterling Larson to the weed board upon the receiving of the resignation of Don Larson.
Sure.
Does he have to submit a written resignation?
I think in theory, I would say it gotta be at least in the minutes of the meeting or something, at their own weed board meeting, I think they would have to.
It's just a verbal.
Well, we have a motion, we should get a second on it, we can discuss it, is there a second to that motion?
Yeah.
Second by Commissioner Materi, now we're in discussion. I guess to bring it up, the proper thing would probably be to resign within the meeting, so at least in the minutes. I mean, if he wants to submit a written resignation, fine, but if not, just at least resign in the meeting, it's in the minutes, and from there, that appointment would probably take effect then.
So what are you saying, you want him to come in?
Well, I would say at their weed board meeting, which I think they meet every other month or something.
Okay.
They meet a little more regular than the other ones, a little more active, so just at their next meeting, he should resign then if that's the case. Or if he doesn't wanna go to it, he can resign in writing or whatever, but
Okay.
that way you got something official in the minutes or something, and then from there, then we have it in the minutes that we're willing to appoint someone, so then that would kinda take effect, and then there's no law or whatever. That probably. Okay, so we have a motion, a second, on the appointment of Sterling Larson to the weed board. Is there any discussion? Well, it's already seconded, so. Not hearing any more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. So we have that taken care of, so then the next item on the old and unfinished business is the director of tax equalization. I believe we have one more applicant, and it was an applicant from the previous interviews. So. I think you have a letter in there. There should be a letter in there and like a. Resume. Yeah. As far as the tax director position, where have we advertised, Marlos?
We advertise it just on the website, on Facebook, and in the Emmons County Record.
Okay, so kind of just locally, basically. Okay.
If you guys want to reopen it, I can get it on jobs for those.
Well, I'm just wondering if we shouldn't just open it up a little more to maybe a statewide or something, I mean, the reason we're just not getting a lot of applicants, and I mean, we're getting the same applicant over and over that we interviewed, and not really an issue personally or nothing, it's just maybe a question of qualifications and stuff. I mean, it's hard to bring someone in who's, doesn't seem to have a lot of experience with it, I mean, it's gonna take a lot of training. I mean, if that's who you gotta hire, that's who you gotta hire, but I kind of feel like we probably need to broaden our base a little bit, looking, offering her the job maybe to see if we can get more applicants, or that's just how it's gonna be. I mean, that's my opinion of it, because it's hard to hire some of these department heads when we only have 1 or 2 applicants. I mean, it's kind of,
You gotta look.
I feel like with a position like that, it takes a lot of training, there's a lot of responsibility, I feel like you gotta do your due diligence and looking as hard as you can before you pick somebody, I mean, you just, I don't know, I feel like I just need to broaden our base, and if you do broaden it, you just don't get a lot of applicants, then you make a decision from there. Just offering it locally is tough, because a lot of people around here really probably aren't looking for work, and, yeah, I mean, it's just, it's not like there's a big employee base in Emmons County right now, so I guess that's my opinion on it, I mean, if somebody wants to keep applying for it, I mean, that's fine, at some point, if they're the only applicant or one of the few, and they interview again and get it, it's fine, but it just feel like in the past, when you have 1 or 2 applicants, it just makes it really tough to really know if you're getting the best qualified candidate out of the group, but. So, I guess the question would be if we wanna reopen it, or if we, wanna consider just the 1 applicant, or if we do reopen it, I think we should probably consider the same thing like we were talking before, is maybe an adjustment to the pay or something, or, just try and. It's hard to just reopen the same job with the same descriptions, hoping for new candidates. I mean, at some point, you're gonna have to probably broaden the job description or the pay or something's gotta change a little bit, so you can hopefully make it more enticing for other applicants too, so. Try and draw it as many as possible, I guess.
I agree.
Well, that's just how I feel about it. I just kind of feel that way about it, I guess, but it's up to all of us as a group. It's hard to just pick 1 or 2 individuals because they're the only applicants and feel like. That's all I feel. So I guess the decision is to probably reopen it.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
Before we reopen it, then we just, someone reevaluate or we can talk about it later in the meeting about what we wanna offer, at least or something too, and see if we want to make the adjustments to it, and just open it up again, and those that have applied can reapply, and kids try and broaden the base, so we're interviewing.
What is the pay scale now?
Not even sure what it was offered at.
You guys had told me it was 3,000, 3,500 a month. And the second time I advertised it, Pam suggested just to put it as salary, and then we could discuss it.
Okay.
You go according to the pay grade scale that she did, we were kind of low, maybe we could look at that.
Yeah, it's definitely. Even with that pay scale.
Well, I think that's where we just have to reevaluate that, because historically, we've always tried to start low, the idea is you start low and work their way up, but our part is you're having trouble with recruiting in some of these positions, because the pay is pretty low, so we're just gonna have to probably raise that floor a little bit. Just try and draw more applicants, so.
It's funny, that first time around, we had, 7 or 8 applicants?
For the tax director?
Yeah.
Oh, about like 2 years ago or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, a whole bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, so, okay, well, I think we'll discuss it, we'll just probably move that to the back part there with the pay scale wage discussion, and we can try and sort it out there and make a decision. So. Okay, with that solved, it is 9:15, so we are at the equalization of assessments, so 9:15 is the cities.
For Bill.
I'll take a break.
Oh,
Morning.
Morning.
We have here.
Hmm.
We don't have anybody here, or are you here for assessments for equalization, Larry?
Yeah, you're very good.
Are you here for the equalization meeting?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, for the city?
for the city.
Sorry, you take- sorry.
We discussed this first and then all the suggestions, yeah.
Okay, so with your handouts for the equalization, we'll look at the sales ratio worksheet first. And it looks like this. Along with all the numbers on it. So under the column of property type, yeah, I don't think you do that, but it is. Everybody got that one right? So under the column of property type, all the number ones are ag lands. So actually before I start with that, the usable sale, 3 columns down, are all number ones, which means these are all usable sales that we had last year. So the property type, the number ones are the ag. And when we do the sales ratio, the way the state recommends you do is the median. So, you take all your sales ratio high to low and you go to the median. But on ag sales, of course, it's different, and Josh will explain that later. And then the twos are all commercial. So them are all the sales for commercial for the year. We took the median there. And then we'll jump to the threes, and them are the residential sales. And on the median on the residential sales, we were at like 78%. So that's where you're gonna see that we had to do a 10% increase, average 10% increase, some weren't quite, some were 10%. So that is why, it's because it ended up as like 78% when we did our sales ratio, which is saying that everything was selling higher than what we had it valued at. Okay. So then the fours are the lake shore, and the threes and the fours are together as residential. They aren't separate. So whenever the increases in residential in the towns or the county, lake shore also is included. And then the fives are the vacant land. Yeah, and them are included with the commercial for the sales ratio. So the twos and the fives are in together, and the threes and the fours. So it's just a nice little printout of the sales ratio. So then you take that sales ratio to the worksheet, which is the grayish colored, and this is what the state goes by. We plug in our numbers with our last year's value and this year's values, total valuations. And then we have to do our increases and decreases. And with our increase in residential, we got it to 9%, so, or to the 91.6%. So we're 9%, with that 10% tolerance from 90 to 100. 9% would get us to 100 if we increased another 9%. But we're within that tolerance, so we're okay, but we're really barely in that tolerance, if you know what I mean. And the ag land's at 8 and the commercial's at 8. Make sense?
So basically, in the tolerance of 90 to 100%, we're around 91, 92% on everything. So
Right.
we're right on we're as low as we can be.
Right.
State.
So if everything keeps selling higher,
than what they're valued at,
Next
you're
year.
gonna see another increase.
Next year, we might be in trouble then. I
Yeah.
have to raise it.
Yeah, which we raised it quite a bit this year, actually. Residential took a pretty good hike, really. But,
And that was, you're raising that valuation is based on equalizing, right?
right,
Like that's like, yeah,
yeah,
cause when we make a decision on valuations, that's only on the ag side of things, right? Cause that, we
Right.
don't really have any, we
right.
don't have anything to do with the residential side of it as far as our
No,
adjustments.
sales ratio decides your
Right. So
residential.
that's all based on just the equalization things and the sales ratios and.
And, you know, we took some farm exempts off and we took, you know, there was a lot of changes and a lot of new homes in the county brought our valuation up, you know, so. But it's still based on that sales ratio, it still depends on how it's selling.
Send out notice of increases if they had more than 10% raise or 3,000
Yeah.
plus raise. In the county, we had, outside the cities, we had 175 people, and then in the cities, it's 300 people that got, because, like I said, average residential was 10%. And that's just solely based on sales. You said they're selling higher than what we're valued for. And the state sees this exact same thing. So if we don't do this, they could increase it more if we don't
Right,
follow.
don't fall into,
Yeah, take it-
and actually, if you don't, they can bring you up to 100%. Yeah,
Well, generally, I
So
mean,
what
when the
about the
states,
agricultural land?
when the state's done that in the past, they don't just bring you to, like, if you're at 89%, they don't just put you at 92, they put you at like 97. Like, they make it so you're gonna be in tolerance for more than just a year,
Yeah.
like, so, cause that's happened before. In
right,
the past, when they were too conservative to the point where then you see like a 12% increase in 1 year, cause they make it so that way they don't have to mess with you for a little bit again, so it can be ugly if you have the state step in. The other question is, so the 10% or the $3,000, that's valuation based, that's not taxes, right?
Right.
Just to be clear with everybody, like 10% valuation or $3,000 increase
And.
in valuation.
10%
So that's
and.
3,000 and a 10%.
It
Okay.
has to meet them both
Okay.
criteria.
And then that is purely on valuation based, that's not tax dollar relation.
Right.
Just to be clear.
And our ag lands actually should say 7% because we are at 93. I don't know if I did that after we did this, because this worksheet doesn't go to the state, it's just for our own use to punch
Yeah.
into the state. But you guys had approved 93% before Denise left, but she didn't put in these values. So I was gonna leave it because we would have been on 92.5, but I decided to fix it anyways. So that's less of an increase next year. So there's the soil calculation right here. I know it's a lot of confusing things, but it has in the back page and the bottom, it has our average value of rate that NDSU set. On this one.
That back page is,
Oh, yeah.
it's on the way back.
So on the bottom there, that's NDSU values and then 93% that you guys approved. And we're at 93.01. I got it at the average of $584.99 an acre. So it's on average a 0.5% increase. But because the soils, so many different acres of soil, some are 0.1% higher and some are 1.7% higher. So it's, so no one got a notice increase just based on the average because of my. So, that I know they should have done. So. Any
Okay.
questions on that?
So we're at 93%, it was like, not what, 93 point something is what it actually came out?
We're at 93.01%
Yeah.
with the new values, yeah.
So we're in tolerance of what we agreed we were going to be earlier in the year.
Correct.
Okay. Larry, did you have any questions with the equalization, or are you just here to listen?
Yeah, I got it, but.
Okay. Are you guys finished enough to take a question, or do you still wanna keep going?
No, we can take a
Unless you
question.
wanna talk
Well, cause I
about
know it was
that.
broke up into cities, counties, and townships, so that's where, did you wanna take a question, or do you wanna keep going?
No, we can take a question.
Take a question then.
Larry, go ahead.
I guess you use the past sales on residential property to determine the value. What time period did you use there?
Usually it's within a year, so it would have been January 1st of '22 to December of '22.
Except commercial, because we don't have enough commercial
Right.
sales, they had to use, I think 2 years we had to use, because you
Right.
have a minimum number of sales.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Means a
20
small
years.
town, our commercial, we don't usually
Yeah.
have a lot of sales, so we have to go back and use old sales, and you can do that, the state allows that.
Because you said it was average about 10% increase in the city of Linton. You know, I never checked any of the records, but it seems to me like Home could sell them for a lot less there the past year than, so I don't know where the increase would come from.
Well, if you look at the sales ratio sheet,
Yeah.
we're, you know, we, 78%, so you gotta remember, there's half of them that are above 78% and half of them that are below 78%. So half and half.
Like I said, I don't have the facts in front of me. I only know one home there just a block from me, and I think it sold for $180,000, and that's kind of comparable to what my house is, so. I just, you know,
But what was it valued at?
what was it?
Valued at, yeah. Was it valued less
Well, I
than?
thought you were taking past sales to determine valuation for the year. Comparable sales are.
Right, but if the house was valued at 150,000 and sold for 180,000, you know,
Yeah.
that's where your difference is. I guess I'm not sure what house, so I don't know what value was on that house. You're saying it sold for 180, but on the sales ratio, to get at 100%, it has to be valued at 180.
Well, and I'll just interject for a second, so just to kind of understand the process, because I'm no expert either, so if you go through and we're equalizing the properties, you're basically taking averages a lot of the sales and stuff too, like if a house sells for 180,000 and you have it valued at 150, that doesn't necessarily mean the new value of that house is 180, that just goes as a part of the formula, and it maybe only raises it 5 or 10,000 maybe on the valuation, so you could still have a $180,000 house that's only valued at maybe 165.
That's right.
And now if it sells for 170, it's still above valuation, even though it's technically lower than it sold previously.
That's right.
So that's where the numbers, you know, it's confusing in the sense that it sold cheaper than it did 2 years ago, but it's still above your valuation, so it's still going to raise the valuations as a part of the formula. I mean, that's the Cliff Notes version, but that's kinda how it works.
That is how it works.
And then depends on the condition of the house, the size, it all quite averages, some go up 11, 12%. And sometimes based on location, Renton, they have another 1% increase compared to, you know, Westville Hall, if it was a similar house.
And also, sales that's not the only parameter that dictates valuation too. So you might have several other things that lower the valuation, but the sales ratio increased it. It might even offset itself, so the valuation
Right.
might not increase, even though
That's
the
right.
sales value is increasing. The home is gaining value, but our valuation, the
Right.
taxable valuation is planing out or barely growing, so that's where you're seeing the increased percentages because the sales ratio is beating our valuation every time.
Right.
So depending on location, quality,
Grade,
variety of different
yeah.
things, so.
And there's sales that aren't used in this, like if it's a transaction to a family member,
Yeah,
that's not used because sometimes they sell a quick claim deed,
Right.
you don't get a lot of those. That gets thrown out as a warranty deed is usually a good sale that they use to determine this. So there are a lot of sales that you hear about that
Yeah.
might be considered in this.
so I guess, Larry, does that kinda answer your question? I had a similar question, what you were thinking of.
Just inject a little bit more.
Mhm.
The year before, the increase on my residential property in town, they raised it $100 on a $198,000 valuation. They only raised it $100. Now this year, for this coming year, they're projecting $24,000 increase. It just don't quite add up to me why that'd be such a big difference.
So the year before it was $100.
Last year, yeah.
The valuation was a $100 increase, or just the,
The increase on the valuation was $100, yeah.
okay,
I was just wondering how anybody could tell so close on $198,000 piece of property.
Yeah, we can't really speak for last year, but we can look into it. We don't have a tax director now, so we've been using another company to help us.
Yeah.
And we can have her look into it if you want.
Why don't you, yeah? Because
Okay.
a $24,000 increase seems like an awful lot.
Yeah, because all we know is mostly this year is based on sales. What happened last year,
Yeah, if you
we
want
have to look
to
into it, so.
parcel number down.
Yeah, I can do that.
Sure.
Go ahead.
It's 52-001-7-00846-000.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into it.
Well, I think that's a good thing for anybody to remember, or anybody watching at home, is if you do have a question on if you see a substantial increase or decrease, it could be an error, or there's probably another explanation that at least you can get for it. You know, maybe there's a certain valuation increase for a certain reason.
Yeah.
Your town, whatever, maybe it's a county increase, whatever it is, it's a complicated formula, so sometimes you see new information added, and that definitely changes it. So, I mean, if you do have questions, contact, Josh or Ardella or Marlis or Karina in the tax office, and they can at least go through it, and if it's correct, they can probably explain to you why that increase or decrease happened too, so. Cause there's definitely variables within it too, where you might not see a substantial increase countywide, but individuals might see, for a variety of different reasons, or sometimes it is an error, maybe there was an exemption missed or something. There's a variety of reasons why something could be wrong too, or maybe it could have been your soils, like with the egg land, some people seen increases even though the county didn't, but, there's just, individual properties don't always follow the county raising or the increases or decreases. And obviously with the word equalization, if somebody went up, that means somebody else probably went down if you're truly equalizing. So, you have situations like that too, where why did my neighbors go up and mine went down? Well, there's a variety of different reasons, and that's part of the process, so. Might not be fair, but it's the process we have, so.
Yeah, and none of us work with the Vanguard program, so we usually have to outsource it to ask, because
Right.
the tax director usually takes care of that.
Right, which is a glaring hole during equalization, that's for sure, that's one thing but I think you guys have done an excellent job filling the hole right now, so. Appreciate all you guys that are working on it, because it's not an easy task,
That's not easy.
especially when it's not your job. I mean, when you're just familiar with it, it's hard to step into that. Marlis, Josh, Karina, Ardella, you guys have all done a great job, so thank you for that.
I don't think you discussed this one. The notice of
No,
increase.
with the,
Yeah, it's just a list of notice of increases outside of the city, Salem County. So as you see, there's a lot of 10, 11, 12, but anything that has a big increase, we've kind of looked over and they're either because they lost the farm as an exemption or a new building, or there's a lot where it was ag land, but now it's like recreation land. A lot of the lake lots, Rice Lake, Beaver Lake kind of area, so the value was way up and looks like they got a huge percent increase, but it just changed classification basically.
well, and some of the value increases sometimes are like during the construction phase of like a new house too, right? Where you have a pretty low
Yeah.
valuation, and they completed it the
Yeah.
next year, so now
You'll see them,
you're
yeah.
going maybe
It was just a lot
$100,000
value,
Right.
and now it's a structure and a lot value, yeah.
And then I can do the homestead credits. You received a homestead credit sheet. Usually when, the taxpayer applies for homestead credit, they usually go to the tax director and she makes sure that they qualify for the century homestead, that the commissioners have to approve of the homestead and VA credit applications at the equalization meeting. When I went to the Lytton City equalization and Hague equalization, I had them approve the homestead and VA credits within their city. We received, a few more. You'll see the city of Linton and city of Hague. Those were new ones that we received since I've been to their equalization meeting. So, we included those in here for you guys to approve. And I just want to touch on that homestead credit. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but, the legislators changed it, which is gonna make it more easier for some people to qualify for that exemption now. So I think we're gonna have a big increase coming next year. It used to be where if your income was like 20,000 or less, and you had less than 500,000 of assets, you were approved at $100,000 or 100%. And then, another one's like 20,000, your income's 20,000, not more than 70,000, and then you qualified at 50%. They had like 6 different brackets, and now they narrowed it down to only 2 brackets. And the 2 brackets are property owner 65 and older, income less than 40,000, you get 100% reduction in taxable valuation up to $9,000 in valuation. Income between 40,000 and 70,000, you get a 50% reduction in taxable valuation up to a total of 4,500. And they removed the 500,000 in value of asset requirements. So we're gonna have a few more people that are gonna qualify come next year. So when I think what we need today is we need a motion to approve the homestead credits, the veterans credits, and the changes in valuation.
And these homestead credits and veterans credits, they all, so they pass through the state requirements and everything,
Right.
thoroughly vetted, so.
There's nothing we can do about that, right? That's all the states.
State people.
Right, you think, well, like I said, the tax director goes through the application process, they qualify.
What did you say there about 500,000? What was that?
The homestead credit, it used to be where you had, if you made less than $20,000 and you didn't have 500,000 worth of assets, you qualified at 100%. They took that 500,000 out of there this time.
So if I had $500,000 and made less than $20,000.
If you had $500,000 in assets, you didn't qualify for the homestead.
Oh, you couldn't.
Right. They took that, they removed that, the legislators removed that. This year was, House Bill 1158.
So that means that,
They removed that requirement, so you can have 500,000 in assets,
so I can have $1 million worth of assets.
500,000.
Let's say I have $1 million worth of assets.
Cause if they take
Like-
out, if they don't have limit on the assets.
So if I have $1 million worth of assets and I made less than $20,000, I can qualify?
If you're over 65.
If you're over 65.
Jeez.
It's gonna open it up to a lot of people.
Couple more
And
years,
then if
John.
you- and-
Couple more years, I mean.
And then if you make, if you make less than 20,000, you qualify for 100%. And if your income is 40,000 to 70,000, you qualify for 50% of your
That's
value.
minus your medical expenses too.
Right.
So if you make 50,000, and you got 25,000 in medical expenses, you're down to 20.
Right, but the valuation doesn't have a cap, it's only up to like $9,000, right?
Right, there's a
So I
cap.
mean, it's not like you get
Yeah,
it.
that's gonna make a lot of people gonna
Oh,
be able to
yeah.
qualify.
And then in addition to that bill, I think it was the same House bill, they also approved a $500, what is it, a primary residence discount. So I don't know how that's gonna work with this homestead credit, so I think the homestead credit's gonna be priority. If they qualify for that, and then it's done, but if they only qualify, let's say, for 50% of the homestead, then they can still get that 50% of that $500 property tax relief that they gave for primary residence. So there's a lot to learn on this, and I don't think
But
everything is all
but that's all
finalized.
that's all out of our control though.
It's all out of our, yeah, legislators.
Well, and the county gets every dollar
And the
back
state
Every dollar.
reimburses us all for everything, so we
Yeah.
get reimbursed for,
for the veteran and,
Oh,
homestead.
the state does get, I mean,
oh
the
yeah,
county
yeah.
does.
every dollar comes back, so it's a win-win.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well then, so I guess they have a motion to approve, table, or deny the homestead and veterans credits for the county and the cities that were outside of there.
Just all the homestead and VA
Right.
credit,
So all the ones that came in after you visited city equalizations were approving countywide ones and the ones in the city that came after their
Right.
equalizations, that their boards did not.
and then do you wanna do it all in that motion to change it? All the changes,
To the homestead credit, which,
all the changes in the county, all.
oh, I see, all the changes for equalization, I see.
Yeah.
Well, I think let's just do a motion on the credits, so. A motion to approve, table, or deny the homestead and veterans credits for the county, for Emmons County. Motion by Commissioner Materi to approve the homestead and veterans credits for Emmons County. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Holmes. Any more discussion on the homestead or veterans credits? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Credits approved. Next would be to, accept the tax equalization prepared by the Emmons County employees for the year, was it the equalization of 23?
23.
It is, okay, so this is the correct answer. Is there a motion to approve, table, or deny the equalization data presented by the Emmons County employees for the year 2020?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Hall makes a motion to approve. Is there a second to the motion? Oh, second. Seconded by Commissioner Culver. Is there any more discussion on the tax equalization for Emmons County for year 2023? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Equalization approved. County is hereby equalized. Yeah, I mean, if there are any questions or concerns or anything, I mean, it's always available to come. You know, even if it doesn't necessarily get fixed in 23, because the rules or laws that you know, there's
You-
major process, there's all, you know, if there's corrections, three things, and it's.
I think if you're not gonna have a tax director by the state board of equalization, I think you need to have a representative go to the state board of equalization.
It's,
August,
End of August.
you know,
18th.
well, even if we do have a tax director by then, unless we have someone qualified, it would be a pretty. Probably gonna end up probably sending one of you folks anyway, since you guys are part.
Yeah, I just wanted to make
Thanks,
you
Larry.
aware of it, that you should have a representative there. I mean, they have education classes and stuff, so it'd be nice to have the tax director by,
Right.
but
In theory, you're probably gonna have to send it, probably one of you folks that are looking at it anyway, just because you're the most familiar with at least currently, or if there are issues or.
Yeah.
Something.
Don't have
But-
it there.
Correct me if I'm wrong too, if you did dispute your equalization at the city or the county level, you cannot go to the state, right? So
Right.
basically,
nobody would show, but I don't know, don't you think the county should still be represented?
right, but I'm just clarifying too, like if someone wanted to
Right.
petition now, it's kind of too late now because the city's approved, now the counties are approved.
Right,
There's really no recourse to go to the state now because you missed your lower levels.
exactly,
The
yeah,
only real recourse is to go to your county or city and look for some kind of a correction or something and then abate it back or something, or correct it next year, right? That's
Right.
kind of the process.
right,
They could go back,
Once you-
they could go next year, right? Could they come back next year?
Right, you, next year, I mean, for 2023 now, it's done unless there's a specific process, like you said, if you find an error or some other way to correct it, there is an abatement process, but it's.
right,
Saying
just
that it has to follow
fix it.
protocols too, it's not like you can just go in and abate something because you agree with it, now we agreed, we equalized, everything is what it is, so.
Yeah.
Nobody showed up. I didn't get any complaints or anything personally on it, so
well, we had a few, but we could correct them before the equalization.
like if they came to you and you resolved it, that's fine, I would say, like nobody was calling me, they going, well, I'm not gonna come to the meeting.
We actually had one that, we had Renee look into, and she worked with the gal and went through all her structures and, right? And then took care of it ahead of time, so it was kind of nice. And then we had another one that actually should have been on farm exempt, so that got taken care of, so yeah. That was good, no worries. Okay, good,
Anything else to do with the equalization?
Thank you for.
you're welcome,
You guys?
sure.
No, we're a little ahead of schedule here, can we move that?
Well, I was just gonna say, you know, we have 9:45.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying? Oh,
Sure. Well, I guess in the meantime, we gotta done building, we can work on that, you know, instead of sitting here in the water. All right, you Josh, you ready to?
Yeah. That might be hard to hear with the AC in this. Yeah, I think that one.
That's all right, we're not sacrificing AC today, so.
Yeah.
Read minutes in the paper or so. I don't want the theory to turn right over you. Okay, so, first order on miscellaneous is the renewal of building permit for Stuart Aldrin to erect a shop and log cabin on South Ave. Right away of section 25, township 130, range 79.
Okay, so Stewart got a building permit last year, right? I think the first month I started looking into it. Well, there's one thing that he missed. He's buying the land from Greg Langlers. And
Okay.
it's not officially in his name yet, so we called him. He brought the deed in a plat, I don't know, last week or a couple weeks ago. But he didn't have it properly notarized, so I called him again yesterday and he said he's gonna bring it in soon. So everything else is good, it's just currently it's not platted and deeded over to his name yet.
Okay.
He's getting 2.5 acres, so that. So it's, yeah, it's down south, like
On the east side,
west side of the highway, like 1804.
is rough, stinks.
I'll pull it up real quick. It's just north of Langlers Bay, like 15 miles. You're there and then.
Well, it's in 25 there, so yeah, you're on the curve there,
Yep, right at the further south of, yeah, right.
north of Langlers. Setbacks are all checking out.
It's over 200 feet from the highway, you know, it's like 125 minimum. So.
Well, I guess we'll entertain a motion to approve, table, or deny the building permit for Stuart Aldrin, but I would just stress that if we're going to approve it, we approve it with the condition that he provides the proper notarization and recording, so we could approve it on the condition that he meets the guidelines, and Josh can approve it. We'll give Josh the authority to approve it once he submits everything to Josh.
Or,
So that would be the motion, I would say, if we're going to approve it, not that we approve something and the proper stuff isn't.
I'll make a motion to accept it, what you just stated.
Okay, Commissioner Terry makes a motion to approve the building permit for Stuart Aldrin under the condition that he brings in all the proper paperwork and everything to Josh.
Yes.
So it's conditional approval. Second to that motion,
I'll second that.
seconded by Commissioner Everly. Any more discussion? So Josh, you under the understanding then that we're approving it based on your final approval and he brings it all right in?
yep,
Okay.
that'll work.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Is there any more discussion on building permit for Stuart Aldrin? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So I will sign the building permit, but then it's
Yeah.
conditional on Josh's signature too, then, okay, that's understood. Okay. All right, next is building permit for Robin and Lene Shaner to move a 30 by 64 mobile home on the northwest quarter of section 26, township 132, range 75.
Trailer house setbacks would be good. This road going south, this is a private driveway, so he's far enough off of this section line that keeps going here, so I see no problems at all with this one.
That's not right.
Yeah,
So
it's
that-
off the highway, Eugene, so.
That, those roads both coming in from the east and then going north and south by his place are
This is, yeah, it's,
streets and avenues, though, they're not actually private drive, because I know he's requesting some,
Break home.
yes, southwest of there. It's almost straight west of, I think there's a bush farm there, not great, but there's another one.
George Bush's.
That could be the other bush farm there, that's straight west of there.
Okay.
Yeah, they, for
He's on
911
the old
purposes.
home, that's the home place.
It is, there is an old, it's a whole, a farmstead back there that's been lived in 30 years, but there, I mean, there is, it's kind of a similar deal as, some of these other places where it's an actual county road that just hasn't been bladed for 30 years, so.
Well, they only, that was private, they only labeled that for 911 purposes to give that old yard and address,
Right.
because it was too far off the main road, so.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he used to do away.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, that one's fine.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Holm to approve the building permit for Robin and Lene Shaner. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Commissioner Terry. Is there any more discussion? I'm going to be abstaining due to a conflict of interest just because I've been hired to do some work on this, so I'm not gonna be voting on that, so. Just to be fair, so we have a motion and a second to approve the building permit for Robin and Lene Shaner. Is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Permit approved.
So you're working out there right before permits approved?
Well, that's why I abstained. I didn't know that's not fair to me to that. I mean, it's probably not a big deal because what I'm doing is not really pertaining to a lot of it, but it's a very thing to do. If you guys don't have a problem, it's not a big deal, but I should declare it. Building permit for Verizon Wireless to exchange 6 antennas and add 3 antennas and exchange ancillary tower equipment on existing tower in the south half of the south half, less 4.42 acres, parcel number 10 and number 11, section 32, township 131, range 78. Whew. Long description.
I don't think they made adjustments on these rigs.
Yeah, so nothing new, just replacing.
Yeah, there's no actual,
Just tower,
there's no structure or nothing going on, they're just replacing the antennas, so.
yeah, the one by Bergad's.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Motion by Commissioner Everly to approve the permit for Verizon Wireless, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Materi, is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Permit approved. Okay, next we have a building permit for Jeff Newman to erect a house and garage on the northwest quarter of section 2, township 134, range 77.
Make a motion to approve that one.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Culver to approve, and seconded by Commissioner Materi. I again will be abstaining due to a conflict of interest as I am doing work on this property. So we have a motion and a second for building approval for Jeff Human. Is there any more discussion?
Is he building a house with it? What's
Yeah.
the house with it? The old
I'm
house?
putting it behind his old house.
Yeah, putting it right to the,
Jeff's there. It's Jeff.
100 feet is-
With the kids.
no,
Yeah, 100 feet's the minimum on the minor road, and that's where you put it at, so.
yeah, so. Okay, not hearing any more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Permit approved. So we have a building permit for David Eastrom to move a 28 by 56 manufactured home on lot 40, Beaver Bay subdivision, section 23, township 132, range 79.
Alright, so there's something I gotta discuss here, hold on.
This by his existing place out there.
Yep, so right south of his house, or cabin he's got out there now.
Yep.
So on our ordinance, the setback for the back of the lot is 50 feet.
50?
50, yep.
Okay.
So, but if you read our ordinance, he's actually gonna be, he has this plan right now for 10 feet from the core line, because this is the core right here. And he's putting it right here between the line and these trees, like this. Now, our ordinance reads though, your minimum front, side, or rear setbacks from lot lines in any district may be less than stated if existing adjacent similar uses are less than the required minimum, in which case the minimum setback shall be the average of the setback of existing adjacent and surrounding uses. So in that area, You know, he's got his cabin 10 feet from the property line, and my line is slightly off because the Corps of Engineers still working on a better digital shapefile than what they gave me. So like his house is 10 feet, you go north, he's got one, Reef's got his pretty darn close to the line, almost right up to it. Same with this one, and actually it's probably right up to the line, my line's probably off 10 feet there, but. So similar adjacent uses are that 10 feet or closer, so.
Well, your line is probably correct, the photo is probably off.
Well, they've even told me their line, because this property lines recorded came from them, and they told me that was.
Okay, well, you do have an aerial
Yeah, so
photo,
they're in the process of giving me a better.
but you do have aerial photo distortion too.
Yeah,
Okay,
and depending on the year of where the satellites are at, but.
Right,
Yeah, they are close, the cabins out there that are up to the Corps of Engineers, but how our ordinance reads, they can be less.
So we should grab it.
I see no problem with it. His house is, he said it's gonna be the exact same distance as his house is, because he wanted to keep it lined up from the line, so.
And it would be 2 feet within the court.
The board doesn't care as long as it's probably not on there, I mean, I'm not gonna speak for it.
Right.
As long as it's not on
well,
there.
I think the idea for a setback for the back of the lot is if you're joining to another
Yeah.
lot, so you kind of are having some space, well, since there's really no back of these lots, I think that's probably why you have the wording the way you do, because
Just in case.
a lot that basically is along the river, as long as you're not violating the core property line, we're allowing it. It's when you have another lot there, because if you make your setback short on the backside, well, now you're basically making it short for someone's front property, but then that, so.
How far are they from the bank? Roughly?
Oh, that's another 100 feet before it drops down, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, before it drops down right
So basically, the ordinance does allow for a shorter setback, especially in this scenario.
there.
So,
Correct, yep.
okay. I guess entertain a motion to approve, table, or deny building permit for Dave Beestrom.
I'll make a motion. Accept it.
Commissioner Materi makes a motion to approve building permit for Dave Beestrom. Second by. Is there a second by? Second by Commissioner Culver. Any discussion? Hearing any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Permit approved. Do a building permit for Ryan Will to move a mobile home on lots 25, 26, 27, and 28, block 4, section 5, township 133, range 76. It's gotta be 10, right?
It's in Timbick, right north of. Yeah, you put it there, right there, setbacks will be good. You already told me it's gonna be more 40 feet, he hasn't brought the trailer yet, but your setbacks are, so you'll, well,
What's the diameter? 75 feet.
nope, it's 66. But from center, it's 40, so it's residential. It'd be in line with the shop, basically, it's right there.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Commissioner Everly makes a motion to approve the building permit for Ryan Wills, or second that motion. Second by Commissioner Materi, any discussion? On hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Permit approved. Next is liquor license for the Country Bar for a one-day event on August 12, 2023 at Beaver Valley Horse Club grounds, located on a portion of the southwest border of section 36, township 131, range 76.
Make a motion for that too.
I make a motion to accept it.
Commissioner Everly made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Materi. Is there any discussion on the liquor license for the Country Bar? Hearing any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion. Liquor license for the Country Bar for a two-day event to be held on June 24th and 25th, 2023 at Beaver Valley Horse Grounds. Same section township, and so one I'm assuming is for the ranch rodeo, the other one's for the main Beaver Valley, so.
Make a motion for that too.
Commissioner Everly makes a motion, seconded by Commissioner Materi. Discussion. All those in favor of the approval of liquor license, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Liquor license approved. Annual compliance inspection for Langley's Bay Recreation Areas, 10 a.m. on July 6th. Usually accompanied by one member of Evans County. whether it's commission or employee. Well, somebody's got it, they go down and inspect Langley's and go through a few different things and typically, I think Leonard went the last couple of times, I think if I remember, of this group, so. I suppose I can do.
Good job.
I'll just find a job down there somewhere. Okay.
So who do you inspect it with?
It's gonna be a member of the Corps of Engineers or one or two people, and they just go around and I know a lot of the stuff's usually in compliance. The only issue like that walking path that one year, then we ended up closing it off. But anything that seems dangerous or maybe needs to get brought up to snuff, either the Corps does it or they tell us we need to do it, inspect the parking lot, the driveway. I think it's pretty painless for the most part, fairly well maintained down there, a lot of stuff that Sam does to keep it clean and usually. There's an issue, especially with cleanliness, I tell Sam, he goes and takes care of it.
So I didn't know if Sam to go down and do that.
Well, they want commissioner, that's fair. Commissioner, so.
Can I read this? Why is it that we, in these recreational areas, that we are held accountable on the expense of the garbage or whatever
That was just an agreement put in a long time ago, I think, that.
with our management?
I think how it went, at least with like Langley's and stuff, is that land came up for lease. And I don't know if Beaver Bay and Cattail are different than Langley's as far as like a timeline thing. But Emmons County holds the lease on Langley Bay recreation, like there's like a recreational permit scenario. And they were only gonna grant it to like a government subdivision or something. And then I think, like now Game and Fish has something to do with it, like in Badger Bay and Rice Lake was Game and Fish's deal, cause we don't, the Corps like grants it to either the Game and Fish, Emmons County. So that basically, we are the lease holder for that area of the Corps of Engineers property recreational.
Do they subsidize this at all?
And there is, like some, like I think when like the roads got paved, the parking lot stuff, they usually contribute.
I applied for a grant of year for Game and Fish, and they approved it, it's $3,500 ridiculous.
Right, for like cleaning and maintenance and stuff, but like even big projects like roads, like usually they participate. It's, like I think the Langley's getting paved, probably had a lot to do with the Corps of Game and Fish more than the county.
Would they ever consider the road going into that Cattail Bay?
They did, we did that about 4 years ago. The road going like basically from, is that the
They did.
end
But it was special road funding to the Department of Transportation.
Right, but the Corps contributed to that.
They gave us,
I don't know, it was about 4 years ago. we did
and the
that.
Game and Fish also gave us some.
Right, because they did that cleaning station and Ford did that, that was all kind of, but that was from 9th Avenue. Gravel, mailboxes into the development, into the boat dock. They gave us
But
excellent.
then special road funding for the DOT, it's usually 60/40 without engineer costs, if we were responsible for, and they gave it fish. Would help contribute some of it.
The feds gave like 60% and then the Ford, we ended up only doing about 10% of that. That's was covered by Game Fish and Ford. So anytime there's a big project, even going along with Rice Lake too, if you're doing something in their area, they usually.
Well, it's to their benefit.
Well, right, and that's why they always have, like even Langley's, if there was a major, something that really had to happen, and you ask them, and there's no guaranteed amounts or percentages, but they usually participate in some of them. And even with this one, I guess down the line, I've never really asked, I don't know if anybody has, but if Langley's Bay couldn't be done by the county, you could maybe consider it. Or maybe we turn that over to the Game and Fish then or something, I don't know, that's probably a long-standing agreement, there's probably rules and regulations to it, but that is something, because I know the Game and Fish does do a lot of them now, like along the river and stuff too, because basically the Ford doesn't manage these recreational areas, they sublease them to a government entity of some kind, and that's how.
It's so damn sweet if we could get that road from 18 to 4 going into land for Cattail Bay, because it's impossible with the gravel. Bay.
Yeah, well, that's something as a part of a project, and all you really do have to either grant process you apply for, you just would request some funding and they would figure out however they figure out things, if that was the case. So that's something to be considered. So, okay, well, we got a couple more things here till we hit 10:15, just to allow for unorganized townships, so let's just finish these last ones, so. Plat of tract C, part of government lot 4, section 31, township 132, range 75.
So there's two plats there. They're gonna plat out this yard here, however, this is a township line. So we can't have a parcel, like they sell this,
Yeah,
we can't have one parcel crossing over a township.
Sure.
It creates issues. So, track C is this township, track B here, and then, track A is some trees in the northwest part of that border. Dimensions, sizes are good,
so the acreages and all that are,
yeah, it's all good.
and all needs some minimums, so. Okay, so I guess, we can probably approve tracks A and B and track C all together essentially, because it's all kind of part of the same deal, so. Same landowner, you know?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess take a motion to approve table deny the plats A, B, and C for these specific tracks in the different townships. Do you have any concerns or? Commissioner Hall makes a motion to approve tracks A, B, and C and these different subdivided lots. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Second by Commissioner Materi. Any more discussion on the plats? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Tracks, plats approved. Building permit for Joey and Delray Baumgartner to construct a 37 by 58 single-family residence with an attached garage in the northeast quarter, section 12, and 131, range 76.
Is that on the same coverage we?
Yes, just,
No, it's to the north.
just, yeah, so I think they're right here.
Yep.
Yeah, they're gonna put it.
On the opposite side,
Yep,
okay,
so setbacks will be good, 300 feet off.
okay. I make a motion to accept it.
Commissioner Materi makes a motion to approve the building permit application for Joey and Delray Baumgartner. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Everly. All those in, any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor of the permit say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Building permit approved. Okay. Now it's almost 10:15, no one's come in. If they come in, we'll give you some time, so we can move on, so. Next on the agenda, since we're skirting around the agenda, Michelle, is you quick? Yeah. Okay, maybe we'll just bring you up instead and then even put it after. Okay.
As you guys hopefully know, all of our funding from, sorry, I jumped in front. All of our funding comes from the state for all of our direct expenses for our budget. The state also gives us indirect monies for indirect costs like telephone lines, things like that. So in my mind, it is completely 100% funded. What is happening with this last legislative session is that they are looking at asking each commission, Host County Commission, to move our salary date or our raise date to July 1. Typically, counties have the option, and they still have the option, but in the past we've had the option, and Emmons County has always chose to do January 1 to coincide with the rest of the courthouse. State fiscal year starts January 1, and so they are looking at, since we get our funding in January, or June, sorry, or July, good lord. We get our funding in
This isn't making any sense, why are you here? It's January.
I wasn't prepared to tell.
Oh, it's my fault, I get it.
Okay, so all of the funding comes in with the state fiscal year, which is July 1. So they're asking to move our raises in our office, so the zone office, to July 1 to coincide with the state calendar budget fiscal year. So we would not get one in January, we would just get the one in July, and that would start July 1st of this year. So what they're asking is that each Host County Commission hear that and make that approval, make a motion for that.
And that's basically just so that our treasury office starts those changes in July, because we're the host county, so
Yeah.
we do
Yes.
payroll for the.
Yes, we do
so-
payroll and all the bookkeeping, that runs through our county for the zone.
Right.
So yes, it just, All it is just coinciding with the state budget fiscal year,
Sure.
if that makes sense.
Well, cause then the money for that payroll is already in the
Yep.
accounts by July first, so it's
Yep.
merely just a,
Yep,
it's just.
it's
a
basically just a motion
documentation
saying
step.
we're gonna take it from January 1 and we're gonna move it to July 1. Yep.
Okay.
We have the money already for this year to have that happen. And we usually do by July 1. So I basically, if you guys are okay with it, just need a motion to approve that the zone compensation calendar switch to July 1.
Does anybody make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Terry makes that Materi makes that motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Everly. Is there any more discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Change approved.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks.
You can go.
Michelle, before you leave, I have a social service question. I don't wanna ask it at the meeting, but I tried getting ahold of you the other day and didn't, so. Like before I leave or something, or give me a call later, or email something. Okay, just so you know, I do have a question. It's not a big deal, but so we don't forget. Okay, that's good. Okay, Nita.
But we're just here to request that, I'm requesting that you appoint Kathy as the head of the clerk of court and county recorder's office commencing July 1. This will be done as of June 30th.
How long does the term go to then?
Well, she would, I don't know how that works, Joe.
She would serve until the next election, which would be in 2024, when she would run for the unexpired term.
Okay.
So she would be running for a 2-year term essentially, then she'd have to run again for a 4-year term, if that's how you would, because of the unexpired term.
The same thing happened to me too when Donovan stepped down.
Sure. Okay, so we would be making an appointment basically until the fall of next year. And then after the election, I guess whoever wins the election would do that, would fill that unexpired term for the rest of it. I believe that's how it works.
So then next spring she would run for,
Right, if she wants the position, she would have to petition and run next year for the next election to fill the unexpired term, which will only be 2 years, and then would have to run again for then the full term would be up in 26.
Who's the young lady that's sitting adjacent to you? Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Kathleen Dot. I'm currently a deputy clerk recorder in Emmons County.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess the question would be if you want to appoint Kathy, at least for the unfulfilled or the remainder of the term, I guess, the unexpired term.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kathy for the remainder of the term.
Okay, Commissioner Holm makes the motion to appoint Kathy
I'll
to
second.
fill the unexpired term, seconded by Commissioner Materi. Is there any more discussion? I think we pretty much laid out the description of how it'll go to fill it after this, so. Not hearing any more discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Appointment approved.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.
yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Should be good.
I do have a question on that though. So what wage scale would she go at now, Kathy?
Well, I suppose the easy answer would be she would just probably jump into Anita's pay since that's the position filled. I mean, that would be, without discussion, I guess we do have it on the agenda in the afternoon to discuss it. So
Okay, that's why,
that would be,
yeah.
we can discuss that then if that's,
Well, Nita took that many years to get that high and give Kathy.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up.
what's that?
Was that position even advertised for?
No, well, that's basically, it is an appointed, it's an elected position until that person resigns and it's up to the commissioners to appoint it. I would say the traditional way to appoint it generally for the short term is usually to appoint the deputy, and I don't think that's out of line.
I think she's got about 16 years of experience in Burley County, so.
Well, and I would just say that, traditionally appointing the deputy, at least in the short term, probably makes the most sense, and you do have an election coming up in a year. I mean, basically I'll have a primary in a year, so
Was she a clerk out there?
I couldn't tell you, I don't know.
I think
but
she
just-
was.
I just do know with her being a deputy in the office, that's the most logical appointment at this point, so I think as far as, I don't think he really advertised for appointments, and that's not really the, I mean, I suppose he could have done that, but logical thing when almost any office is usually to appoint the next in charge for that office if they're willing, and then from there, like I said, we have an election coming up soon, so if it's an issue, I mean, it'll get sorted out soon, so that's the good news about it, so.
So she'll start.
Well, we'll have to discuss that this afternoon, I guess that's probably.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, the one issue, just, you know, not to get too off track with the agenda, but the one issue we do have to discuss with wages is, you know, even though someone's been in that position, it could be considered a low wage or, you know, going forward, or, I mean, just having someone accept that next wage, it's kind of like the home valuations we talked about, just because that's the current wage doesn't mean it's properly valued in the right spot, so we do have a pay scale Pam has, I mean, that's got a lot of data built into it, and from there we can see if we're at or where we need to be, so we can discuss that this afternoon as well, so, we got about another 15 minutes till Jim Wagner would come in, so, Josh, do you need 15 minutes? With the courthouse?
I think we should wait, because
Oh, you wanna wait?
the departments are probably gonna come in to talk about that.
Okay.
Probably too much time for utilization, but I thought we could.
Well, you gotta put enough, I mean, 15 minutes for each group is not a line, so.
You know, maybe Gary would wanna come in, I don't know.
Was Skylar, sure we could talk about some road stuff.
Well, that's the only thing is I don't wanna jump too far into Skylar and take up Jim's time. Well, we could start, I guess.
There's one thing I
Just
want,
yield to Jim when he comes in, so Skylar, if you want to come up.
there's one thing, Doug Geffro, I don't know, did you bring that up, Josh, on the, can you bring that up on that, where we went across that guy's field for the section line?
Oh, yeah.
Doug Geffro, came to me and we went out to, he rented some land from Paul Silvernagle, or from Silvernagle's out here, from that Silvernagle family.
Okay.
He rented most of it, now he lost a couple of pieces of land in there. So now he's gotta get across to a piece of land in the middle of his, so he's gotta go across the field to get to it. And the way, old Pete Silvernagle, you know, farmed, they farmed across the section line, but now he's gotta get in there, so we just put flags so he can get through there for now, so. We put flags in where the section line should be. So he could drive across to get to the land.
He rents this area, I think it's this field here,
See, Doug rented all that there.
but he doesn't have this.
He doesn't have that anymore.
So now.
So
yeah,
now he's gotta get into those two big pieces there.
Yep,
He's got, see,
right. Who put flags there?
Me and Doug went out there. And we came into Josh, we wanted to see find out where the section line, because you can't see a section line that's been farmed over for years.
How did you determine that that was the section?
Just with GPS on the phone, we went in there and we could see there was a section line on the other side, and that's how we
I would
went.
say the proper way is we better go get a surveyor, go out and reestablish that section line at least, I mean.
Well, he had to get in there, get the land seeded, so.
Well, I mean, I understand that, you're probably close enough with a phone, because 66 feet is what you're allowed to, but I think if we're gonna have any kind of an issue in line, we better at least reestablish that
Well,
section.
that's why I brought it up. It's probably gonna be I'm sure somebody's gonna,
Well, you should probably at least get that on there with Skylar, and they can have Wolves or somebody go out there when they're down here.
did you go out there, Josh, it on?
Yeah,
Well, we
like I
put-
said, I don't have
Were we pretty
the
close?
actual GPS that the surveyor has, but my distance there, 10, 15 feet is mine, and they're close. I think they may move a little bit, but I can't tell you guys exactly where it should be.
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't think anything you did there was wrong, but going forward, if we're gonna have you guys, if we're reestablishing the section line, at least for right away, we should probably have it surveyed and done right.
Well, I'm sure, you know, it's all in the Silvernagle family. They're all brothers and sisters there. One rents, start to rent to somebody else now, but he's gotta get in there to be.
Right, well, he's got every right to, you know,
Yeah.
but if it's been farmed through all these years and stuff, then that should probably be reestablished and rightly, properly done.
So there's gonna be, I'm sure there's gonna be some phone calls or somebody's gonna be.
Right, well, that's what I said, if there's gonna be any kind of an issue with adjacent landowners, then the first thing to do is to just get it properly surveyed and make sure that it's, you know, I would imagine that there's probably monuments and stuff, it's probably not gonna be too hard to reestablish.
Well, that oil pipeline went through there, so that,
Right,
I'm
yeah,
sure they had,
I would say any surveyor being able to go out there, and I'd say easy, but probably within reason, so. Be something to maybe add to Mold's list if they're coming down for something else you got going on.
Okay,
did you go out there?
yeah, Doug and I drove out there, cause he asked questions about how to access the land, and then I put state's attorney, but there was no defined section. It's kind of where I left it, then he called me and said that he went out there, put some flags up, and then he wanted us to touch, just smooth out a section of the ditch so you get through there, kind of on top of the hill. Yeah. I haven't done that yet, so what do you think until we get survey markers? On the list.
Just figured I'd bring that up, so.
Do we have a couple minutes?
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes here, so until that Jim Wager comes on the agenda.
Well, there's something, road department, but not any road issue. There's a state auction coming up. There's a lot of dump trucks on it. I'd like to go after one of them. I'd like to actually allocate some of our money from when we sold the equipment over the last year. Went into a fund, it wasn't budgeted this year for it, but it went into a fund, not sure what fund it was. Wondering if I could allocate some of that money towards the dump truck.
We want to use this dump truck.
Well, I think the one thing about it is I know the culvert that got replaced there by Hazelton on Seventh Avenue and that, you guys had to take a side dump and park it about 1,000 feet away almost because there was nowhere to turn around.
Yeah.
So you gotta bring a semi with a side dump to take out a few loads of asphalt, it's kind of overkill. And I know when you're replacing the culvert, hauling gravel in, that's always kind of been an issue is you're on like almost a one-way road, it'd be nice to be able to back up with a dump truck and dump it, rather than dump it on the side of the road, scoop it up with a skid loader. I mean, the other thing, speaking of Skylar's, we're trying to look at getting one that maybe has a sander and probably a plow on front, so
Correct,
for maintaining like our paved roads and even some of the better gravel roads, like the ice issues, we never had to apply sand or salt, and then we could also probably get somebody who's not a blade operator to run a plow truck too, just to help out in the winter and stuff.
Does that have that on there?
There's, I think there's 10 or 11, some of them do have all that stuff, so.
State auction thing.
Yeah, the state. Tomorrow.
So actually, when we sold some of that equipment, like at auction and stuff, that, we did that one go back to like the road district, so I mean, kind of spot that one.
Well, it's just extra revenue, I think.
Right, so I mean, so we can appropriate some of that out of there.
We can, I don't know if you're gonna go over any of your line items,
Yeah, I don't know.
fuel and all that stuff.
But that one, I mean, even though we didn't budget that, it's in that fund, that we budgeted.
District, I put it on the district.
Right, so even if we went over a line item, but we don't go over the fund, we could amend the budget later on. Like we would, let's just say your equipment purchase budget is 100,000, you end up spending 125 because you purchased this truck, you can amend that budget. Funds, just the budget.
So how many dollars was that? From that?
Well, when we sold all that stuff, that was close to 100,000, wasn't it? With the, when we sold the ditcher and the truck and
Yeah, 'cause we had two different options.
well, I mean, I guess I don't have a problem with that. I think that feels a need, it's something we've talked about before. I mean, at the same time, the state fleet option is probably gonna be your best bet as far as, I think they're fairly well maintained, at least the truck you're looking at is probably on the newer side of the truck, so it's.
Are they a tandem?
Correct, yeah.
What are you looking at?
Oh, they range, we look back at, some go from 25 to 70,000. So we're hoping to get it as cheap as possible. I mean, we're not gonna go crazy on it, but I mean, you're looking at the used truck market, it's like everything's crazy, and trying to get a new was out of the ballgame, so.
Well, and generally the state fleet auction usually brings pretty good money, because the state fleet is, I mean, maintenance is usually there, I mean, they tend to rotate out and keep things in good shape, so you're probably gonna spend a little more money in that auction, but you're probably gonna get a little more sure bet versus just buying one out of Minnesota or something like that, so. I guess for the main part of it, I guess you do have a line item budget for that, and I guess I would have no problem with it. I don't know if we necessarily need a motion, because if you don't go over your budget item, you really have to leave it in your budget. I think the only issue would be is if you spend a little more in a certain line item in your budget, then you just have to spend it at the end, and that's where the motion comes. So I'd say for now, you have the permission to go for it, see where it lands.
Probably the best for the least.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan, best for the leagues, there you go, Commissioner Terry's. No, I think that would fill a need, I think it's something can use, so. Okay, still got a couple more minutes, if you got anything quick?
Well, just an update, we did lose another road employee with yesterday morning. Fell down another employee, so.
So is he working 2 weeks yet, or is he done?
No, he done yesterday.
Really?
Yep.
That's the one already done.
Well, it's Matt Bassett. Left.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's the, yeah, I heard it. I did.
Yeah, it was, he texted me yesterday, asked if I was at the shop, come in and turn in his resignation letter and stuff like that, so. So now we're even more short-staffed.
Okay.
So just an update for that. I guess we probably got just a minute or two left. I was contacted by Wold Engineering. They have to acquire some right-of-way. I believe it's for that Sanger Bridge project. Could be a different project. He wanted to just make sure, roadway easement payments we were happy with it. The last time it was updated was March 2016. For temporary construction easement, it's $500 per acre for crop and pasture. Permanent construction easement and permanent right of way is $2,200 per acre, and for cropland and $1,000 per acre for pasture. I talked to our neighboring county to the north. Their temporary construction easement is $500 an acre for crop and pasture, and then $3,000 for permanent, and they don't decipher between crop and pasture, so. We can either update it or stay the same, or change it to whatever you update it, I guess. Or if you're happy with these, we can go with this.
$1,000 an acre for pasture is probably not too far off, but $2,200 for farmland might be a little cheap if you're, I mean, I don't know if this.
I wonder
That's what kind of dirt it is.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, I mean, it kinda depends, that's kind of an interesting deal there, but yeah, I mean.
whose land is there? I mean, that's on that Sanger Bridge.
I don't know exactly if it's at the Sanger Bridge one,
But he's just
that's the
talking about,
project we're working on.
right, but he's just talking about generic, like this is
Yeah.
just what it
Oh.
would be from now on, that's not.
Oh,
Yeah, not just this specific.
I'm pretty
project.
sure they're probably gonna have to acquire some right of way coming up, but this is
Yeah.
whether we wanna update it or keep it the same before they start negotiating with anybody on any of these projects, like whether it's them bridges or them, culverts we're doing or any of that stuff, if they have to acquire right of way, they gotta know about where they wanna start negotiating for Emmons County, so that's where this is coming in, so. I don't know if I really have any reason to change it, I guess, but.
because the farmer will come in anyway and say, I want more money.
I think there's probably room for negotiate, this is probably just the table they start with, and if it's anything more serious and we really need it, then I suppose we would just have to negotiate anyway, so.
So what's the state guidelines as far as if the state lands in that area? What do they ask for, cropland or pasture land?
That, I guess, I'm not
Must have a
sure.
Rule of thumb set for that.
So,
No doubt.
I mean, these are not, like, we're not purchasing the land, you know, so.
Right.
Like, obviously, if we have to require right away, then you go into you get it evaluated and stuff like that, so. This is just if we need to go on the land a little bit.
I would say we keep it the same, and if down the
Yeah,
road,
I
if
mean,
we
it's-
got issues down the road.
I don't have a certain number I would wanna raise or change it to at this point, I think they're fair numbers, but like you said, depending on where you're at, it could be I mean,
Okay, so we'll just keep them the same then?
I'd say just keep them the same.
Okay, so that'll work.
How about that land, Judy Carlson, can she get in and out of there now?
With
We're
Jim
gonna-
Wagner, hang on, I was just wondering, like Jim Wagner out there, or somebody with Yep, okay, well then we can have them come in here, Dave, we'll just probably wait till after this next agenda item is up and then we can go back to it. So you're Jim Wagner?
Yes, I am.
Okay, floor is yours, sir.
Okay, I'm just wondering, we were here 3 years ago, and if you recall, I know you were here, a couple of you guys weren't. We come in and complained about the road, you promised us 2 motor graders, a water truck, whatever it took to get the road fixed up. This is 3 years later, we haven't seen nothing. And I remember you saying we're gonna table it. What should be off the table by now? So we know what, if we're gonna fix the road, we're just gonna let them go the way they are.
And you're talking about the road from 1804 into...
To Cattail Gate. Yes.
Well, I think the difficulty we're having right now more than anything is that we're shorthanded. I mean, that's that's a big problem. Like we just found out about 10 minutes ago, we just lost another guy yesterday, so we're down to 5 plate upgrades for the whole company, so. I mean, that's one issue that we're having, so I mean, trying to recruit other guys. I mean, the other thing we're probably gonna have to start looking at is either contracting or looking at, you know, if there's some seasonal temporary guys that you run late for the summer or something like that, something like.
Why do you keep losing?
Well, guys leave for a variety of reasons. I mean, one guy retired at the end of last year, and then another guy left because they moved to Bismarck, and I don't know why the guy quit yesterday, that's news to me, and they quit.
Pay scale got anything to do with it?
Probably, I mean, it's probably part of it, you know, like I said, I know the one guy that Bismarck is because his wife took another job, I mean, that, you know, some of those things you just can't help. Like I said, you know, well, you know, I mean, there's just a variety of different reasons why guys move, but it's not, it hasn't been, I don't think it's been a ton of disgruntled employees, but I can't imagine they're happy. So that, maybe it's pay, maybe it's the job, I don't know.
So, okay, well, that's from now moving forward, but from 3 years ago to now, you had to lay out.
Right, but I mean, even in those times, I think we'd argue that we were probably a little short-handed on it too. I mean, that's the trouble. I mean, the way we've been operating, that's kind of part of the discussion is, I mean, each blade operator has roughly 160 miles of road of their route, so I mean, it's just a lot of road to maintain, and then you have issues like now we're in kind of a rain cycle, so we've had culverts washed out, and we're always kind of redirecting. It's not so much that we're ignoring these projects, it's just that there's so many of them. We're just not getting to them. I mean, that's just the honest truth to it. There's no other way around it. I mean, we blade the Cattail Road as much as any other road.
The only time the Cattail Road gets bladed, and I think Don will verify that, is when we call Don and ask it to get the. And then the buck is passed where Don's been good about it, but he'll say, we'll call Skylar, these things, I don't even, where's Skylar at?
Skylar's right there, the road superintendent.
Okay, so then I call Skylar, one day, and he said, can you come up and drive the Cattail Road? It's so washboard, you can't even drive. He said, you don't think I know what washboards are? I said, well, yeah, you probably do, but, appreciate if you come out and check out our road. So I don't think he ever came out. I know you probably know what washboards are, but.
Cattail, I pulled the operator's time card, that road has been bladed 3 times.
But before that, it wasn't bladed. And now
Well, we were pushing snow.
Wait, hold on here, hold on. I mean, let's just, I mean, the main thing, I'll just tell you, I drive that Cattail Road quite a bit. I have a lot of customers down there, and I know it gets rugged, no doubt about it. But one issue that we have with that road more than anything is that road is really wide, and I don't know what they built it out of. I think the intention was always to pave it, and it never happened, because it was probably too expensive then. it's really expensive now, and that's what makes it really hard to maintain. I'll stand for that, and I know it gets horrible, you know, it gets rough, but, I mean,
That is one of the most ruined roads in this county.
right, but that, I mean, that's a hard argument to make, because there's a ton of roads that always get driven. I mean, every road like that, there's a road like that in every district or two, and that's always the conversation. That road needs to get bladed more, our biggest issue and what we need to really look at, and that's a part of the wage discussion at the end here too, is we've been running short-handed too long. We've been trying to operate a really conservative road department as far as wages, guys, and I think we've probably put ourselves in a hole by doing that. We probably should have had maybe 2 more guys more than we had, and I've been a part of that, I'll admit it. I try and keep property taxes low, keep things reasonable, we try and manage it with the guys we have with overtime, but we haven't been able to manage it with overtime, and that's probably part of the reason some of these guys aren't sticking around either, is there's probably some burnout, there's frustration, because we don't ever seem to get caught up, because we're running too short of a crew, I think.
If you're running a short crew, what would the chances be to bring a motor grader out to Cattail and I can find enough guys to run it once a week to blade our road?
I think we would entertain a lot of ideas like that, truthfully. I don't think the county is like above or not willing to entertain contractual agreements with maintenance or anything like that.
I'll do it free of charge, once a week.
Well, I don't think we want you to do it free of charge. I think it'd make more sense to have some kind of a contractual, I mean, whether we bring you on as a temporary employee and
I don't
provide
want to be an employee, I'm retired, but I would blade from the Cattail area in and out, once a week.
Well, I mean, the only discussion of that is probably a liability issue, and that's why like being free or donating things versus maybe having you as a contractor or an employee would make more sense. That's the legalities and liabilities of the county is probably the main concern, but, you know, otherwise we just have everybody out there maintaining every piece of road they could, but there's, you know, just a liability issue on it. That's the reason why I brought up that if you were a temporary employee or there was some kind of a contract with insurance and things like that, then I think we could work something like that out. We don't just want people out there with blades out doing it for nothing, because some guys can do it and some guys would probably make a mess of it, let's just face that.
Well, I've been on a motor grader for around 4 years.
And I'm not doubting that, I'm sure you probably do a fine job, but that's where just we'd have to make sure we run it on the proper lines, but I think one thing we do need to start entertaining is the idea of just bringing in help, whether that's increase. Oh, and then we gotta probably increase our own department and, you know, there is a lack of contractors for that kind of work in the county too. The few guys that do it are just as busy as us, so, I mean, that's where, if you have someone that's, you know, willing to even provide a piece of equipment or run one of ours, I don't think we'd have any kind of problem with that, to tell you the truth. Well, right, but I mean, we can't just go and accepting that. I mean, you gotta be thoroughly vetted, but I wanted to relay the message, and I think we would entertain any and all options to make sense. It's the same thing when we talked about with gravel hauling, is Emmons County's trying to do it on the cheap with our own trucks, on our own guys that are working to get it done. It's just too much. The idea sounds great to save money and we're gonna stay under these budgets, but we're probably getting 50 miles gravel, but we need to do 100. So we need to look at bringing in other contractors to do stuff. I mean, we've hit that point now, conservative plan hasn't worked.
I've got one more question, I don't know if anybody else wants to talk, but you said something about paving. I know you're, there's a bill introduced, that infrastructure bill. If there's a resident housing complex of 10 houses or more in business, that fell under that grant, has anybody ever checked in?
Yes, I'm not familiar with that.
What's the factor with it?
Okay. Well, I mean,
Does it still
Check
exist?
into something like that.
Does it still exist?
I don't.
Joe, do you have any idea about it?
I have no idea.
that's probably a question for more like Brian Fuchs in the DOT, the local government commission or something, if there's some. You know, the trouble with those kinds of projects is usually there's a cost share, and I mean, so that's where even 20% of a project like that would probably be in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, but that's where, I mean, an idea brought up with that before with some of these areas is maybe trying to get it paid. What you do is you probably have to create like a special assessments district where everybody would pay a piece of it to try and, you know, in an area. I mean, that's an option, that's definitely, you know, Emmons County hasn't done a lot of that because we've always kind of been conservative, quiet, just do the best you can in county, but it is hurting us. And to ask 5, 6, 7 individuals to try and maintain this entire county is just, it's becoming too much.
We just gotta remember, this is 2023, this ain't 1950 where we're driving this section. Cause that's what we're driving. I'll let anybody else.
Down the other day, the road was C16.
Dave, sit up there, like, sit up there.
But anyway, said that they would drive that district.
That route right now hasn't had a blade operator since March. Cause I know Skylar was doing the road, the snow route, but now that spring and summer's coming, it's just, we're trying to actively recruit for that district, and now we just found out this morning, we have another district that's out of it, so we actually have 2 areas that don't have a blade man right now, so you basically take that 150, 160 miles in that route, and now you just split it up amongst the blade operators again, so now you just gave everybody another 30, 40 miles, so. I mean, that we're struggling with that, I'm not gonna refuse it or any, I mean, we're short-handed bad, and, that area is the worst right now, because it hasn't even had one blade cycle yet.
So Dave, is it more just, is it the whole road, or is it just spots where it needs to be gravel, pretty much, more than anything?
Both roads. Place, he's that Mohawk, way the back.
You know, I know there's a lot of them complaining down south about the roads too, but they said it's not the blading that has to be so much, it's just the spots that if it rains, it gets so bad, no
Well, and
gravel.
that's where, yeah, kind of in a bad spot right now where our conservative nature's starting to meet up with our issues, and it's getting, somebody's gonna have to be the bad guy at some point and probably spend some money, and I know everybody's up to more debt, I was trying to get by it cheap, and it really hurts us now, it's. And the same with your guys' route, everybody in their routes was gonna get theirs bladed, and then we're gonna team up and have maybe 1 or 2 blades in that route to try and catch up, so the goal is to get a blade, I mean, that's always been the plan, it's just, we get interrupted by rain days, we have a few culverts, so you request, and they get their route done like they thought, so they're day 2 behind. The plan, and we're gonna get blades out there, it's just the other guys have to get their routes done first before we do that, so.
Well, I think the bad part is now that there's gonna be so much grass that's gonna be growing on, that's gonna have.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bad, and the other problem is we have a lot of bare spots, because we threw a lot of gravel in the ditches because of the mountain snow rule, and just kinda how it goes with that, so it's all kind of coming to a head right now, it's a struggle, and on top of it, I mean, even your country's getting rain right now, which is, I mean, the Cattail Bay area being the greenest spot in the county is very odd right now. So not only are their roads not getting attention, but they're getting exposed to a lot of rain, which is.
Scott, I will ask you, what are we looking for hours, the guys at the shop? 40 hours a week, you work 4 days or 5 days a week, or what?
4 days a week, cause everybody's just they're burnt out, they had a crappy winter, like, you can't keep overtaxing the staff we have.
Yeah.
I mean, they're working their 40 hours, a couple guys will work some Fridays, but. So they work 4 10s, is that what they're doing? Yeah, cause you can get way more, there's studies been done that you get more done in a 10-hour day than you will in an 8-hour day. Even if we went to 5 8s, like, we get less done. That's very true. Yeah.
So, well, I think what we're running into now is when you start losing staff and you start putting pressure on the other guys, you start to hit burnout, and it just starts to, I mean, we have a snowball effect going on where now guys are probably really getting stressed, and now you're asking them to not only cover their routes, but other routes, while also, maintaining trees and culverts and all the other stuff they try to do during the summer work. And that's another reason why later in the agenda here, we have pay wage scale discussions. We're not getting any recruits for the jobs we have. We're gonna have to probably just increase our starting wage, so we'll get more guys interested in those jobs. We're recognizing the problem, and it's a problem. I don't think anybody's running away from it with you guys. We all admit that we're in trouble, so.
Question, so if you had to go outside contractor in addition to raising wages to meet the demands, does that put the budget that you guys have for this year in a deficit? Or is there enough money to do that, or do you have to go back out and do a new assessment for next year? what's kind of your thinking around that?
Well, I think the situation is we typically haven't budgeted for a lot of outside services, so yeah, we're probably gonna end up running into troubles with the budget, but I mean, the county does have some reserve funds, we could, you know, it's not like we're gonna go out and just immediately raise taxes, we do have some reserve funds, we can amend the budget later in the year.
So the money is there,
Well,
theoretically, the money's there.
to a point, yes.
It's just a question of how you
Where to
guys
get it from.
allocate the logistics,
Right.
whether it's outside contract or a combination thereof.
Right.
Sounds to me as kind of the next step.
Well, that's
Right.
something we're gonna have to really look at.
The biggest issue we're running into, especially after COVID, is a lot of times it's not money, it's getting people. I mean, every contractor that does that kind of work is more than likely swamped this time. I mean, that's the thinking Emmons County needs to have, whether it's hauling gravel, doing any kind of maintenance contracts, bringing anybody in, is we need to start making those decisions almost now for the next year. Really, because we're running into that even with our box culverts, and we're extending our deadlines because we can't get contractors that'll bid it enough that can do it within they'll tell you they can do it, but they're 18 months out, and you're like, holy cow, so you're bidding projects that are almost 2 budget cycles ahead sometimes, just because you can't get guys to come in, so that'll probably be our biggest hurdle. I think a lot of the situations, even in the past, we've been able to find money. What I mean by that is state funding, that, you know, the legislature releases dollars, whatever. The money's probably not the biggest hurdle. It's probably getting folks in here to do the work is probably gonna be the biggest
It's
issue.
more a people problem.
I would argue that it is.
And we have enough equipment, there's enough bladers, is that
Well,
right?
there's enough to at least do more damage on our side. If we could get 2 or 3 guys in here, we do have the blades and we do have gravel trucks. We could do a lot more, but right now we're down to basically 5 blade operators, the road superintendent and a couple truck drivers. That's essentially what we're at right now, so and traditionally, to get more trucks on the road, you have to pull blade operators, and that's been a problem too, because we can't even pull the blade operators to run some trucks, so as you can see, it's starting to be this snowball effect. We need to get bodies in here first more than anything, and in the meantime, if we can find some contractors, or if some guys are willing to work seasonally, come in as a temporary employee, if it's just your thing to work, we can work it out, you know, we can get you in a blade or anything like that, if you got a CDL, anything worth, and it's definitely a possibility. I don't think anybody in here is going, we'll do it ourselves. I mean, if guys are willing to.
I think that's a creative solution.
I think it's.
I understand the liability issues, and anybody that's willing to take a blade up on your own, we're gonna have to deal with that liability, whether you're an outside contractor and sign a waiver, you become a temporary employee.
I think what we'd have to do is we'd have to have somebody that is gonna provide their own liability insurance with their own equipment, or they would have to get in our equipment. That would be I think that would be the only itchy point with it. You have to be willing to become an employer or sign a contract that meets our parameters with the insurance. We don't need vigilante blade operators. Not saying anybody wouldn't do a good job, but you just have an issue where someone rolls a car and now there's blame, now there's liability, that's the biggest issue more than anything.
That might be a great idea to have Jim do that.
Well, we're open to volunteers at this point.
If you want to sign a waiver or something, then we can work with the guy.
Well, I think that's the there's gotta be a process, obviously, but I think we're willing to entertain that process. I think that's the fairest way to say it.
I got one question, okay, you said, so somebody rolls a car or whatever and gets hurt. Right now, as many times as we've called in, that the roads are so rough. What if somebody does roll a car? Whose head is it? Who's on the dropping block?
I think that's a pretty loaded question. I mean, I'm sure insurance is, that would be that would depend on a variety of situations, but I mean, yeah, it could fall on the county, I imagine, in the right scenario, but, I mean, that would be probably above any decision we would make, so. I mean, I can tell you that the Cattail Road isn't abandoned or nothing, it's just that, I mean, the other problem with it too is it is in the way corner of that district too. I mean, it's just like anything else. When you have 160 miles in an area, I mean, you can't always, even like the Cattail Road, you can't drive out there and just blade that road sometimes because there's a lot of other roads in the meantime. We try and work that way or work our way back. I mean, it's, I'm sure it hasn't been perfect, I know that, but I mean, even I know the road going into Dave's yard gets pretty rugged. I've driven by it after a rain. I mean, there's a lot of roads in that area too that deserve the attention too.
That's why I asked if it needs just more gravel there or what, you know?
Well, I think everything out in that area needs a little bit of everything. I mean, that's the struggle in not having a guy dedicated to that route right now.
There's a couple spots, but we'll get that about 3 or 4 years ago, gravel all went off the road there when it's so.
Right, and every time you have a rugged winter like we did now, we lost a lot of gravel in the ditches, and I mean, even the best guys, that's just how it's gonna be, so. Right, and I mean, it's not trying to make excuses, that's just the facts of how it is, and that's where the troubles are lying right now, so. I think the county commissioners are aware of it, that we are absolutely shorthanded though, we need to do better, and I think we're gonna do whatever we can, and one thing that I will just tell you, I'm going to advocate for spending more money, and I know that's probably not the great answer, but we've hit a crossroads where our trying to maintain too conservative of a department is hurting us now, it's falling apart.
At first, you guys spend money, which means that we gotta pay taxes, just service.
Right, that's where.
We wanna get paid, you guys wanna deliver what's expected, so I'm not so sure you're gonna get a tremendous amount of resistance, but you guys are doing the best you can. But if we gotta raise revenue to help out with logistics and manpower and wages, so that we can drive, that's something that all of us gonna have to consider.
Well, and I think that's where the attitude has always been to try not to raise it at all, and I think we're missing an opportunity for incremental. I'm not talking about doubling the budget, it would be too crazy, but we definitely need to recognize that things are costing more, wages are gonna have to go up, things like that, but even if you were getting a deal, which I know is part of popular taxes, you're definitely not even getting at your deal, it's not even a good enough deal anymore to tolerate what you get, that's basically, we're recognizing that, which is, it's gonna happen. Well, and that's, I mean, we're just gonna have to do better. I don't think anybody in here is in disagreement with you guys being here or nothing. I don't think anybody's got a problem with it. I totally understand your guys' feelings on it and just know that we're gonna work harder on it. We're gonna do better.
That's tough, that's,
Yeah.
That's a tough thing, that's, and all those spud trucks in.
Well, and I think it's not only that, I mean, you got a big feedlot down there, there's a lot of crop ground other than the potatoes, and there's just a lot of action down there. And then there's the weekend traffic, or the 4-day weekend type traffic, already by about Wednesday afternoon, there's a lot of campers, a lot of boats, a lot of stuff going by there. I mean, we redid the road from 9th Avenue into the cattail development about 3-4 years ago, and that was even getting regular blading on it, that's just the amount of traffic on it, and it's just not holding, it's tough. It's a tough area to maintain, it's generally dry, this year it's been wet, but generally it's dry, it's hard to maintain there too, so it's, but yeah, it would probably do better from a lot more blading, and the only way to do that is to get more guys in, so I think we're all in agreement, that's the goal, that's the plan, so.
Did you ever check in last year or a couple years ago on that base one? I got every camper, every ranger, every boat goes by my place. I mean, by one, I walk across the Racine Trail for dust. And they said you're checking into that base one, just, it'll be a small area, you said it'd be a good test spot.
I know we are doing some work up by Braddock on some dust suppression, just kind of some, Ken Wolbach's doing some of his own, just private stuff. We did look into it, but it does have its faults too, as far as the blading and maintenance of it, because it hardens. It also accepts a lot of moisture even when it's not raining, like on a humid day, and it can get, it's probably something that we can probably keep looking at. Every time we come to that point, especially if the engineers of the other counties will tell you that it does have its drawbacks that kind of lead us to pull back from it, because it sounds great with dust suppression, but it might create issues where it gets slick after a small rain or something. It might not necessarily be as beneficial as we thought. I mean, we are having open to the idea of picking small spots and testing it, because it is quite expensive too, which is the other issue, but that's, I mean, we've talked about it a few times, but we always kind of get talked out of it by the people that we talk to, so that's why we've stayed away from it, but, there's always other products coming out too, there's soybean type stuff, there's been some hemp stuff. maybe some of these products with a little more test time are a little better than the, like the magnesium chloride and stuff that's been talked about, so.
What do you think your timeline is to communicate back to us as to some solutions you guys have brought up, or you're talking about yourselves, to let us know what to expect? I think what our frustration is kind of just wait, we don't know what's going on. We appreciate the action you're talking about doing today, but how will you communicate back to us that here are the ideas we're gonna go forward with, we're gonna try to execute them? I think that's what we're looking for.
Well, the biggest thing right now, even if we've got many employees in, it's gonna take a while to get new employees. So I guess right now, we want service now, we're gonna have to look at contracts, right? And that's what he's gonna have to go out and look to see what the bill. It's hard to say right now what is out.
Yeah, I'm not looking for time, we know it's gonna take time, what I'm looking for is,
You don't wanna
when
hear,
do you guys decide, well, it's contractors,
Yeah.
boom, start next week, start looking, work with Skylar, try to find some people. Just, what we're saying is, we'd like, communicate back to us, you know, however, so that we know that it's working towards a solution.
that's not gonna be 3 years down the road, right?
What's that?
That it's not gonna be 3 years down.
Sitting there 3 years from now, we're back here again, I mean,
Yeah.
we're going to help out. We're all neighbors, want to get it done, but we just want to know that it's working towards the end solution. Here's the plan, because that's, what's the plan?
Well, I think the other thing too is that even this afternoon, part of that pay scale wage discussion is that we were looking at, probably changing some of our wage situation, not only with our current guys, but where we're gonna start guys. And same thing with maybe even having some kind of a temporary position pay where you can start advertising, and if there's even guys in the county that just wanna come on, and that we're looking to do. I mean, if we come up with a resolution today or something, we wanna get that out there right now, because we wanna start getting some guys in the department, well, people, I should say, take gals too. But I think that's our immediate goal, or at least my intention why I put that on the agenda is we're accepting the fact that just in the last month here, we're really running into some trouble and we need to react now. Like even if it does cause some current budget issues and we gotta amend it later, or we gotta apply for some grants or some funds, or if there's state funds coming in, utilizing them, start working on a plan to get it done. So I think you can expect it immediately, and I don't know how long it truly take, but we're gonna be working on it after lunch technically.
Great, thanks.
And that's,
Because it's a little bit, it's a little bit, it's done.
well, if we
We go
can,
back, keep it again.
and we're running struggling, so.
Well, it's probably just a good opportunity for follow-up, in November or something like that, see what the progress is at, instead of getting to that point where everybody's frustrated 3 years down the road. So it'd be a great opportunity for you guys to get feedback from the group too on, the opportunities that have been out there and, what's been good, what's been not so good.
Well, and I mean, I don't think I'll just maybe speak for the group here, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but even, I mean, if you guys know, if retired guys, semi-retired guys want, I mean, I don't even think there's no, I mean, we would take somebody that only wanted to work 2 days a week, or, I mean, I think we could fill a role almost anywhere. If someone wanted to just, like, if you're semi-retired, we don't expect you to work 60 hours a week, but if you want to come in and we can somehow work a schedule, whether it's gravel hauling, you get a CDL or something like that, you want to come in and we can work it out a couple days a week or anything, well, I mean, I think there's an opportunity for almost anybody there, somebody to make a little side money or just participate.
Try to show income an employee, or even a contract. We can still get reimbursed for our expenses.
Well,
Yeah, for fuel, let's say.
I think we'd have to work out some kind of agreement on the liabilities, because there's, right, but I would tell you, I think any opportunity is on the table, as long as we're not violating the law or putting ourselves in a serious legal liability. I think we're willing to entertain just about anything. You guys know buddy people with equipment, contractors, we're looking, I mean, we really are. I think we'll have to come up with some agreements as far as rates, expectations, but you got somebody with a blade that wants to maintain 30 miles of that route down there, and they kind of meet the requirements we're looking for, qualifications, somebody that can run the machine decent. I think we'll entertain a lot of those opportunities. I don't think we're closed-minded to anything right now, other than breaking the law.
You know, maybe if Jim said he'll run a blade, maybe, I mean, you don't need a brand new blade, do you? I mean, even if you found an old blade, I'm sure he'd be
Well,
willing.
and that's, I mean, I'll just say that we do have blades now. I mean, we have equipment we can either put you in, you don't gotta go find your own for the moment. And down the road, if we fill those blades, if we're that fortunate, then maybe you need to go find one, but.
Oh, but even if he had an old blade and he'd let us sit down there.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying, if you have an opportunity where you're somebody that wants to provide equipment and you can provide the liability insurance or come on as some kind of a contract, we can sort something out, I think we're open to it, just plain and simple. If you got an idea, bring it to us, if it's something we're doing, we'll do it. I think we're at that point, especially in your guys' area, because it's so far away from even just the home base of Linton and in Strasburg, it's just tough to get out there. If you can find somebody that wants to maintain even that area specifically, I think we'll work something out if it makes sense.
It's gotta be a county. There's no way that we can get all this stuff. No way. It can't get done. And this didn't just happen this
Well, we're just asking though, not 3 years from now, we're gonna come back and ask questions like now.
So Aaron, when you come up with, the commissioners come up with, are you willing to relay that information to Jim since he's run?
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
We can maybe.
I mean, I don't know if
Jim
we
doesn't
can-
wanna be the one doing it, but we can maybe come up with I'm thinking of
Sure.
a couple people in mind that might have an interest and see what you can come.
Well, and I would say that too, is corresponding with us is maybe easier than us always reaching out to each individual one of you, like you guys coming to me, Dan, Gary, Dave, Don, Skylar, Gary Sanders, whatever, I mean, whatever number you wanna get a hold of to relay that information. I don't think anybody's opposed to that either, and if you guys got proposals, ideas, or if you're looking for feedback, tell you what we've been working on, shoot me an email, text, call me, I mean, our information's on the website, some of you guys have my personal information just from business relations, whatever, I mean, I think we're more than willing to share what we've done up to whatever point it's at and keep working on it, I mean, I don't think anybody's closed-minded to anything right now, I'll say that, so.
Is there a chance that you can sublease one of your guys out, and then you'd be getting paid?
I don't know, it's something that we can visit with about a little bit, there's some concerns of liability on our side too, so I mean, it would have to be, in my humble opinion, it would have to be somebody along the lines that would have some type of agreement with the county, it would release us from anything like that. You know, Jesse probably would have maybe somewhat of an interest, and maybe if he'd get 10 hours a week or something, but whatever we can do to help facilitate on that, there might be an opportunity.
10 hours a week in a blade on a road down in that area would be a huge savings to us, even just in that, I mean, not savings money-wise, just in time, general work, I mean, and if you got somebody down there that's willing to go and work a Saturday or a Sunday on it or whatever, a couple times a month, whatever, we can work out some kind of agreement, whether that's a reimbursement deal, an hourly rate, I don't know, I don't wanna speak for anything, but I don't wanna take anything off the table. I think if you got a decent proposal and it passes the smell test with liability and legalities, I'm just gonna reiterate, we're open to it, just, if you come up with anything outside the box, let us know, I think we're willing to entertain it. On our end, we're gonna try and refill our employee ranks and probably look at some contractors if we can get some, and we're gonna just have to accept the fact that we're behind, so I think we're all on board with it, and like I said, come up with an idea, let me know, let somebody know, no idea is really a bad one. But we need to keep moving on with the agenda, guys, so I mean, you're welcome to stay if you want, but we're gonna keep moving, so thank you.
Thank you.
Skylar, you're back on, and then, also I'm assuming with Carlson folks here, we're gonna talk about 17th Avenue. So.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, very good.
We'll get it.
Well, we might as well start with 17th Avenue since we have folks here on top of that.
Yeah, so 17th Avenue, obviously it's going underwater, and then, we had a meeting with I met with the water board, or the water board had a meeting yesterday that I attended, They had more engineering, look into trying to pump it. It's not a great solution to pumping it, because you've gotta go like 2 miles to the south, and then you can go to the east a little ways, but then that fills up the storage. There's not a great natural drain in that area. The culvert did collapse, or it was collapsed, there is a collapse. So it's about a foot difference from the east side to the west side. The east side's a foot higher. If we replace the pipe, it'll drop it about a half a foot, which would help the driveway out, but it's not gonna, like, it's still gonna be underwater, just not as much. So, we're looking into, we talked about grade raising that section of the road, but then that would just cause it to hold more water, which would push more water onto the driveway. We can talk into possibly getting some federal funding through our, because it is a federal aid road, so we can do that and see if we can tie in that driveway with it at the same time, because it will impede that driveway more if we raise that road. So as of right now, our plan is to replace the culvert, or get a culvert to try to equalize it a little bit better. Water board didn't think a pumping would be a great idea.
So where's that at exactly?
It's north of Braddock.
Okay.
Up there, go around past the Fashion Grounds and then hit 17th Avenue, and then it goes up to the county line.
So that is a federal aid road?
Correct.
And did engineer go out and look at it already?
Well, we've contacted Wold, and then Moore Engineering was working with the water board on it a little bit.
Oh, that must be a mile west or a mile east and then to the north.
To pump it, right?
I mean, the road there. I think it's a mile east and then you go, the road goes to the north there, you're talking about that road, right?
Yep, 17th Avenue.
Yep.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I've been on there, yeah.
That's from that last rain, all that rain they had that last time?
Well, it's just it's just.
It was probably already high from the snow runoff, and then they got about 7.5 to 8 inches of rain right after that, and it just filled that whole area up.
And it's always kind of, their water sits in there for.
The roads
I mean, obviously last year was probably a little less due to the drought, but they went back to the 30s, they had satellite imagery, there was no water sitting there in the 30s, then after that, there's been water pretty much every year. So
the one thing that I had talked about, and I didn't mention this to the water board or not, but I did kind of bring it up, was pumping it to the southwest onto the other side of that, I think it's.
Yep, in there.
56th, because that quarter line almost acts like a dike. I mean, it's built up pretty well. And I know that pasture's already full of water, and I know the landowner said that he didn't care if we pumped into it. And he said it does drain over the course of the summer, and so I mean, my idea, or at least the thought on it is, can we pump from that big, because them two ponds there are almost isolated, because that quarter line and the federal aid road are basically acting like almost like a dam. And if we could just pump a kitty corner into there and at least get it so we can lower the water enough so the road starts hardening up a little bit, just, even if it was just intermittently throughout the summer, you pumped till you kind of filled it up a little bit, let it drain. I mean, there's just a lot more room there than there is, there's quite a bit of, I mean, you don't want to obviously endanger the rest of the roads, you'd have to manage it a little bit, but I mean, the number you talked about when you talked to Mike Ravinius about raising that road, minimum $500,000.
Oh.
Right, I mean, we're not even talking about it for less than $500,000, and the federal aid, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of dollars coming out of Evans County, and on top of that, the issue is you raise that road, you just jeopardize every other piece of land around it, because you're just raising the water level, you'll keep the federal aid road, but you'll totally destroy Carlson's road going in, as well as probably submerge a bunch of other acres, so it's not really that. I feel like the only resort is to probably try pumping it, I really.
well, we did talk about pumping it to the southwest there, and he thought that it would just kind of cycle back in there, so we just throwing it to the front of the boat instead of overboard, like.
True, but.
So it's just a vicious cycle of doing that, like, this is not the ideal situation, so.
Well, it is hard because this is like the lowest point in the area, there's like nowhere to pump it. I mean,
So
you probably can find
there's
one.
no drainage on that then, I take it?
No, like the way that the topo map showed, to the southwest, you'd have to raise that road almost 5 feet before there's like a 5 foot difference between it was like 1886 or 85, and then it was in the 1919s, so like 5 feet, or 1890s or whatever, so.
No, because the water pools on both sides, they built the road through the slough essentially. It's basically the same elevation on both sides, I mean, the water's obviously not because the equalization culvert's plugged now, but if the culvert wasn't plugged or collapsed, that water is always equalized there, cause I even talked to.
And it doesn't now anymore?
Well, no, now there's, like Skylar said, there's about a 6 inch to a foot difference from one side to the other, cause that culvert has got, even if that culvert was replaced, you're maybe only gonna cheat the water a couple inches each side, it's gonna equalize again, that's cause they basically, the road got built right through the middle of that low spot, and I know it's been raised a couple times in the last 30 years, I know it was about 10 years ago, cause that was my parents' commission, so.
When they built that road, 17,000 originally, it was dry.
Well, of course, yeah, no, that's, right, yes.
Yep.
We had the same issue with the road east of Strasburg there by the elevator and stuff, I mean, that used to be the football field, it used to hit right.
East of our house is a 40, 50 acre slough, and that all that come around in the 30s with the low sand. We closed it up, but that was all one big lake out there.
And so that's what we're dealing with, is we're essentially,
It's just going back.
right, we're at the floor drain, that's the problem, there's really not a lot of options. That was kind of the idea we brought up with Strasburg years ago, was to have somebody start irrigating out of it, but they're getting so much rain, they don't need to irrigate. But I mean, that would mean, I feel like the only, you can be spending a lot of money pumping it and still be money ahead. Cause like I said, you go and raise that road, you're just endangering every road around it anyway, you just, well, you're gonna create a bigger problem, you're gonna spend a bunch of money to create a bigger problem, then you gotta raise the road, Carlson's, well, then now you raise both those roads. Now you're inundating more land, I mean, it's.
But you not just raise it for us, you raise it for my gapper, you raise it for Jeffrey Bunch. They don't.
Right, but I'm just saying that raising the road all the time just creates a bigger problem somewhere else too, that's. Right, I mean, it's really a bugger right now, that's.
So is it passable now?
17th Avenue is closed because we had a culvert, there was a hole in the road. It was on the side of the road, water was on the side of the road, so they flagged that the hole showed up, so then we closed it.
I mean, it was passable with like 4-wheel drive, it was pretty soft, I mean, it's.
It was soft last year too in the spring, I think it's soft every year.
You get out, and I get out, I go up to the cornrock yard, I take my front, my neighbor's cornfield, it's corn this high, I'm kitty cornered that. Down, and I come out on the approach that Mike had put in down there by the slough, and we come across where there was a little bit of water on the road. We come across that to get out. I don't know how long he's gonna put up with us driving from Stormfield.
So is that your only access in and out of there?
It looks like the whole area is nothing but potholes, that's the trouble too with it, I mean, that's it. There's no quick way in and out anywhere.
We're only 30 feet from the aquifer. Put in irrigation wells like this. Water table as high as it is.
Well, I think currently, we still have the water board working on a solution with more engineering, and I guess I feel like pumping is still the most logical way, because the other problem you run into when you're trying to raise a road in a wet area is where do you get material from, where do you, I mean, we had that issue even with Francis where we were fixing roads and we were wrecking 3 miles of road to fix 4 miles of road, I mean, you're.
Well, that's the thing.
Right, I mean, it's the same situation like we talked about before, it's like a snowball effect, you start borrowing dirt from 2 miles away and running it over soft roads to get to that spot. Now you created a bad spot, like, that's why I still feel like the experience I have, the little experience I've had with this is I mean, pumping worked on that Strasburg hole, I mean, and they pumped it a mile. It was, I mean, it was a similar situation, I mean, it was a long ways, but I feel like, I mean, I know there's pumps available through the water commission, things, I mean, you can get bigger pumps that would fill the need. I think the big issue was purchasing the pipe, which I know Strasburg does have the pipe, maybe we can lease some pipe.
Where would you pump the water to?
Well, that's where, I mean, it would take about 2 to 2.5 miles, I think, until you hit some kind of a drainage, and even that would be iffy, but I think this situation is you'd almost have to just intermittently pump, like, I don't think you'd be able to pump 24/7 for a month, but you might be able to pump for a week or two, and hopefully you could get Mother Nature to agree with us and get some dry weather combined with the pumping, but get enough to get the road out of the water and just keep.
If it's pumped across that road that goes west, straight west from our mailbox, right there where that water is,
Yep.
that eventually will work its way over to Dayton's Creek and back yonder and wind up in.
Yes, I mean, that was the idea that I came up with just driving out there. The trouble with that is you'll probably fill it pretty fast, so that's where, like we said, you might have to pump it, then shut the pump off for a couple weeks. You know, maybe if you get it, historically, July and August are our driest months, September, you get something going here in a couple weeks and maybe you could get into a dry stretch and it'll pump, cause I know James Silvernagel's the one that owns that land, and I called him and he said that he would work with us on it. I mean, and he did say too, that on a drier year, it will drain. So, like what Judy had mentioned, you could put a foot or two of water in there, then maybe quit. Hopefully it goes down, you put a foot or two of water in there. Well, I mean, right. That's the scary part, is like you said, the water is quite a ways off the road now, you put a foot or two in there, you're gonna have to quit, you're gonna be jeopardizing the rest of the road, so. But that would only take about 50 feet of pipe probably, so in a scenario of fast, easy, maybe that's the way to start until you can get a longer pipeline going, you know what I mean? Like I start on that immediately, and maybe over the course of a couple weeks, you get guys letting you put pipe across their land, and you get enough pipe and you start pumping it. And, I mean, this isn't gonna be the last time this happens to us, we might as well start utilizing this as a short-term plan for some of these roads. We can't just raise every road because they've been underwater. It's not feasible.
James, but that's all it's faster.
Right, and that's where, again, that's another situation too. You're probably gonna have to do some kind, well, you're gonna have to probably do some kind of right-of-way agreement. You might have to pay him some money to do it, but even if you pay a landowner and you buy some pipe and you do a pump, $500,000 gives you a lot of leeway. And $500,000 was a low estimate, it could be much more than that, so when you start, and if, we do have a pump, I know the pump we use is the pump that Strasburg started out with, it's that 6-inch one that you guys have used. We do have a pump, we can get pipe together and stuff and utilize it in the future too. I mean,
Came from over east somewhere, so irrigation.
a lot of that did, like the Strasburg deal, and that's something too, Strasburg does have pipe. Maybe we can work out a lease agreement, purchase, whatever, I don't know, I mean, we got a lot of leeway if you're getting estimates of $500,000 to $1 million to raise a road. I feel like that's the most plausible way, I think maybe a little more consultation with maybe like more engineering, cause they've been working on it with the water board, if they think that's even feasible in the short term, I think it's something we should probably go after, and then hopefully the long-term plan is to find a little more of a better outlet, but I'd say just keep working on it, and hopefully in the short term.
So the water board, more engineers working on that?
Well, they discussed it yesterday at the meeting.
So I contacted the water board, and because I know Old Engineering's usually got a lot going on, I know these guys are busy doing our road stuff. I felt we should share the work, so the water board's there for a reason, so I told them to consult their engineers and look into a solution, and so that's why they're doing it, because I just knew if it's always on us in the road department, it's just not gonna get done, there's just too much work, so. But I know more engineering jumped on it pretty fast, and I think they're working on it pretty well with us. I think if we can start getting some solutions, if we can get a few landowners to work with us on maybe pumping some water, we can start on something pretty quick and at least try.
It's, we do farmer's market, I need to be in and out of there at least twice a week. And it's hard to haul equipment, like you said, Mike's been very generous letting us go across that field, but how long is that gonna happen?
Right. Well, I think that's where if we can at least get the water just down a little bit in the short term, just so we can start seeing that road come out and stuff, and I think that's gonna be our best plan, I mean, We just had a meeting, guys, we can't even get all our roads bladed, now we're gonna go and raise the
As far as
road.
we know, our road bed is still under, but when the wind blows from the north or the south, you get wave action, so how much has it taken off the top of our road and washed down to the rock fill and the culverts that was buried under there? That we don't know, I haven't crossed it. My youngest grandson's got the only nerve to drive through there. I don't wanna be rocking like this on a culvert.
How deep is it there? Is it pretty deep?
On the road, it's not even touching the running board.
It's about yay deep.
No, it's not even that.
And
So,
6
I
inches
mean,
to a
off-
foot, yeah.
Off to the side though,
Off the side,
yeah.
off the road.
Couple feet, I mean, I'm sure the ditch is deep.
You drive off the road, you're gonna go into about 8 to 10 feet of water.
Okay.
It's gonna be deep, cause that's a drainage right there, that's why,
Yeah, it's very.
that's why that piece went underwater, is cause that's like the low point, there's a road going basically in and it filled the road in, so. But, I mean, I think if we could get that road, if we could get that water down a foot, that would be huge, so, I mean, even just a foot, and that's where I think temporarily, if we can just pump it short and just try and intermittently pump it and then, I mean, we'll keep working with more, but I think that's our best bet, that's
I
my.
hope we don't get a wash rain like last year.
Well, we're hoping Braddock got their wash rain
Well,
over
we
here,
got
so.
that, I was surprised because that storm just came in and kept raining and raining on the 12th of May. It just rained and I went out and it was 2 marks shy of 6 inches. Then on Saturday morning, it started again and it put it up another 1.75 inches. So
Oh, I didn't
we
have
had
any,
7.75. Still
I
had
didn't-
over 6 inches of rain up there, so that was a widespread area.
If we could pump it 50 miles, I hear Hague's looking for
yeah,
water.
I didn't have any rain yet this
I
year
mean,
at all.
Donnie's looking for
Maybe
irrigation.
3 inches.
Why don't you haul some down?
Yeah, there you go, and just destroy every road hauling water out, no matter what we do, we're wrong, but yeah. I mean, just to tell Judy and Vern here, you guys, we're working on it, and I think the best solution is gonna be to pump it, and we're hoping to come to that resolution pretty
We're gonna
quickly.
make restitution for what's.
That, we'll sort that out. We'll sort that bill out after we pay for the pumping bill or something. But yeah, I think the short-term resolution is to pump it right now.
He said, he didn't say anything about that.
He's followed you, dude.
It is Mike's property.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, that's.
So you can either consult with water, or if you want.
Yeah, so we'll work with the water board, then we'll, as the county, we'll replace that culvert, try to get culvert in there, so that'll help equalize, that'll drop it. Hopefully a little bit, cause it'll nicely to equalize it, so. Oh, I wish I did.
Yeah, let's see.
We could have some.
We call it the square sluice when the roof collapsed.
Yeah, so then that's, yep. Yeah, somewhere, so
That's the one that we're
we're gonna set,
well, then, or it's going around it, and it's washing out, right, it's going beside the culvert and washing the dirt down, which we've seen that happen.
Their field corn.
It's passable at your own risk, but we closed it, I think we're,
no, and that's why I closed, that's why I closed the road, but people have a tough time reading, I guess.
well, the other trouble too is that you don't really have to find people for driving on that road, their driving on that road might be their own payment, because they're gonna get probably stuck or wrecked something. Yeah, that's what I mean, they don't need to get fined, they're gonna be paying their own bill on that one, so well, I mean, we closed it to tell people they shouldn't be driving on it, but if they wanna drive around the sign, that, so.
You need some rocks, there's lots of rock piles up there.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what, I'll still work with the water board about pumping, and then we'll replace the culvert and try to get it equalized out so we can hopefully get your driveway under or back.
So
Above
that's-
the water line.
Can we put some fish in?
Well, no, because then you probably won't be able to lower the water level, it'll be some government entity that we can't touch, so don't do that at all. So, okay.
Minnows in.
Yep, thank you.
Skylar, got a little bit more time here, Skylar, so. you wanna continue on something else, or if you're done for now. There's gonna be other stuff, like I know we gotta talk about the quarry involvement road.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we take a little 5-minute break quick, and then we'll take on, Josh's deal on the gym, okay? We'll recess for a couple minutes.